나의 레벨은 다르다 어나더 레벨 하식스와 함께하는 ASL 시즌 15 24강 C조 경기로 함께하겠습니다. 안녕하세요, 이영경입니다. 계속해서 예측 불허의 경기들이 치열하게 펼쳐지고 있는 시즌 15의 24강인데요. 지난 수요일에 펼쳐졌던 B조 경기에서는 김태경 선수와 황병영 선수가 16강에 올라섰습니다. 자, 오늘 24강 경기는 꾸준히 ASL을 지켜온 선수들과 그리고 오랜만에 경쟁의 무대로 돌아온 선수들의 맞대결이 성사됐는데요. C조의 선수들은 어떤 생각을 가지고 있는지 이야기 들어보도록 하겠습니다. 안녕하세요. 반갑습니다.
안녕하세요.
네, 먼저 C조의 탑티어 박상현 선수입니다. 박상현 선수, 지난 시즌은 정말 아쉽게 느껴지셨을 것 같습니다. 16강에서 빠르게 좀 탈락을 하면서 이번 시즌을 기다릴 수밖에 없었는데요. 이번 시즌 본선 무대를 처음 앞두고 계신 컨디션은 좀 어떠실까요?
근데 24강에서 이렇게 좀 위기감을 느낀 적이 없는데 뭐가 너무 어려워가지고 좀 걱정이에요.
이번 시즌 박상현 선수가 온라인에서 보여주셨던 포스를 생각하면 사실 좀 수월하게 연습을 하시지 않았을까 생각이 들었는데 오늘 경기장에 오시자마자 대기실에서 24강에서 이렇게 위기감을 느낀 적은 없었다면서 좀 굉장히 걱정을 토로하시더라고요. 그 이유를 좀 여쭤봐도 될까요? 궁금한데요.
일단 하태형도 물론 엄청 잘하는데 또 성균이 형이 3티어신데 요새 너무 잘해요. 1티어라고 해도 믿을 정도로 잘해가지고 어려운 조가 된 것 같아요.
탑티어 박상현 선수가 C조 정말 죽음의 조로 느껴질 만큼 어렵다라고 이야기를 하셨는데요. 또 오랜만에 ASL로 돌아오신 사신태랑 김태형 선수와도 이야기 나눠보겠습니다. 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
시즌 9 이후에 예선의 벽이 참 높게 느껴지셨을 것 같습니다. 그래도 이렇게 당당하게 예선을 뚫고 시즌 15의 본선 무대를 준비하고 계시는데요. 좀 긴장되거나 그러시진 않나요?
좀 오랜만에 오긴 했는데 사실 여기는 이제 ASL 때문에 왔었고 또 그때 또 짭제 박상현한테 졌었거든요. 근데 오늘 이제 복수하러 왔습니다.
복수하러 오셨다. 예선을 뚫어냈을 때만큼은 드디어 좀 해냈다라는 느낌도 드셨을 것 같은데 당시 예선 때의 느낌을 기억하실까요?
제가 이제 코로나 터지고 온라인으로 바꾸고 이제 한 번도 못 뚫은 거거든요.
네.
처음 뚫어서 되게 기쁘고요. 오랜만에 뚫은 만큼 오늘 한번 보여주고 싶네요.
굉장히 지금 각오가 남다른 김태형 선수입니다. 그도 그럴 것이 또 박상현 선수와의 스토리도 있지만 김태형 선수가 아직까지 ASL에서 16강에 오른 적이 없으시기 때문에 이번 시즌만큼은 정말 좀 남다른 마음으로 임하실 것 같거든요. 준비를 어떻게 완벽하게 해오셨을까요?
근데 이게 준비하는 과정에서 진짜 박상현 선수가 얘기한 것처럼 박성균 선수도 잘해서 세종족전 다 해야 돼서 너무 힘들었어요.
세종족전을 다 준비를 하셔야 됐던 상황이 김태형 선수에게 좀 난관으로 작용하셨을 것 같은데 그래도 경기에서 좋은 모습을 좀 보여주실 것 같은 느낌이 드네요. 자, 도재욱 선수와도 이야기 나눠보겠습니다. 안녕하세요.
네, 안녕하세요.
ASL에서 유일하게 또 개근을 해주고 있는 ASL의 역사와도 같은 선수 도재욱 선수입니다. 이번 시즌의 느낌은 좀 도재욱 선수 어떨지 궁금한데요.
일단은 역대 느낌으로는 최악이긴 해요. 일단 요즘에 경기력이 너무 안 좋아서 최악인데 24강이 좀 쉽지 않은 조라서 2조로 오히려 통과하면 좀 더 잘할 수 있을 것 같아요.
말씀하셨던 것처럼 최근 개인 방송국 공지를 통해서도 요즘 게임이 너무 잘 안 풀려서 쉽지 않을 것 같다라고도 하셨고 그래도 통과를 해서 오겠다, 마음 편하게 팬분들 기다려달라라고 말씀하셨는데 준비하시는 동안 마인드 컨트롤을 가장 좀 중요하게 생각하셨을 것 같아요. 또 마음이 편해졌을 때 도재욱 선수가 보여줄 수 있는 포스를 또 기대하고 계시기 때문에 어떻게 오시는 길 좀 편안하게 마음을 좀 추스리고 오셨나요?
일단은 어제까지는 정말 걱정이 많이 됐었는데 오늘 오히려 당일이 되니까 마음이 좀 편해지더라고요. 그래서 약간 좀 편하게 임할 생각이고 오늘 또 그리고 응원 와준 BJ들 정말 많아요. 그래서 또 꼭 올라가서 보답하고 싶습니다.
동료의 힘을 받아보겠다. 자, 그리고 정말 오랜만에 ASL에 돌아왔는데 공백이 무색하리 많지 많은 선수들의 견제를 한 몸에 받고 있는 독사 박성균 선수입니다. 오랜만입니다, 박성균 선수.
안녕하세요.
진짜 시즌 9 이후에 군복무를 건강하게 마치시고 또 이렇게 ASL의 무대로 당당하게 돌아오셨는데요. 소감이 좀 어떠실까요?
일단은 제가 이렇게 오래된지 몰랐는데 거의 3년 그 정도 됐더라고요. 경기장 안 온 지. 그래서 되게 또 뭐랄까 새롭고 그래도 좀 기대되는 것 같아요.
지금 쭉 인터뷰를 나눠보고 있는데 뭐 우승 결승에도 올랐던 박상현 선수, 도재욱 선수, 김태형 선수까지 박상현 선수를 계속해서 좀 의식을 하고 계시는데 이 부분에 대한 박상현 선수의 생각은 어떠세요?
그거는 이제 제가 요즘에 좀 까불었기 때문에 약간 의식하는 것 같아요. 경기력이 살짝 올라왔다고 견제하는 것 같은데 제가 봤을 때 근데 여기 있는 사람들이 다 잘하거든요. 그래서 이제 제 입장에서도 사실 죽음의 조거든요.
네.
그래서 그냥 저도 지금 너무 힘든 상황이에요. 네.
경기가 시작됐을 때 어떻게 좀 흘러갈지가 정말 기대가 되는데요. 본격적으로 팬분들의 질문도 한번 전해드리도록 하겠습니다. 시조가 재밌게도 세 분의 전역자분과 한 명의 미필 박상현 선수로 또 구성이 되어 있는데 도재욱 김태형 선수는 전역하신 지가 꽤 오래되셨고 박성균 선수도 이제 1년차를 향해 가고 있는데 박성균 선수 전역자 입장에서 ASL에 임하는 마음은 좀 전역 전과 어떻게 다른지 궁금해하시는 것 같아요.
전역 사실 뭐랄까 그래도 그 전에는 그런 마음 부담이 그래도 있었죠. 이게 뭐 마지막이 될 수도 있다 뭐 이런. 근데 지금이 좀 마음 편해요. 짭짤도 나중에 아마 편해질 거예요 미래에. 네. 지금은 불편할 수도 있어요. 이게 내가 마지막일 수도 있다. 다음이 마지막일 수도 있다. 그래서 부담감이 생길 수 있는데 이제 갔다 오면은 편합니다. 뭐 딱 내가 이제 여유롭게
네.
게임만 잘하면 된다 이런 생각이 들어요. 네.
또 선배로서 이렇게 생생한 조언을 해주셨어요. 박상현 선수 미간을 이렇게 조금 이렇게 찡긋찡긋 만지시는 모습이었는데 유일한 미필자로서 이제 박상현 선수의 조언을 들으니까 좀 어떤가요?
아니 근데 질문지가 좀
팬분이
감정이 있는 것 같은데 약간 너무 어지러워져가지고 지금 좀 감사합니다 조언.
진심 어린 조언 감사하다고 또 답변을 해주셨고요. 다음 질문입니다. 아직 2개 조만 진행이 되긴 했지만 ASL 이번 시즌 좀 예상치 못한 결과들이 계속해서 속출을 하고 있습니다. C조에서는 어떤 선수가 가장 좀 위협적인 상대라고 여겨지시는지도 궁금해하셨어요. 이 질문은 좀 도재욱 선수가 답변을 해주실 수 있을 것 같아요.
모든 사람들이 다 일단 상현이가 올라갈 거 생각을 하고 위협적인 건 당연히 성균이라고 생각을 해요. 왜냐면은 경험도 많이 있고 옛날에 ASL 많이 올 때도 8강은 항상 기분을 갔기 때문에 그래서 성균이 좀 무섭긴 한데 성균이가 맞는 것 같아요.
C조의 최대의 복병은 박성균 선수다. 박상현 선수는 어떠세요?
저는 제 상대 태영이 형 같아요. 제가 어제 한번 연습하고 있나 하고 방송국을 한번 들어가 봤는데 꼭 올라가고 싶다고 공지를 쓰셨더라고요.
네.
그래서 쉽게 생각 안 하고 단장의 능선 많이 준비했습니다.
네, 김태형 선수가 지금 4명의 선수들 중에 가장 많은 좀 동기부여를 가지고 올라오신 느낌이 저한테도 좀 현장에서 느껴지는데 다음 질문을 또 이어서 김태형 선수께 여쭤보고 싶네요. 나는 대회에서 이기고 싶어서 이런 식으로까지 연습을 해봤다 하는 것이 있는지도 궁금해하시는 분이 계셔서 질문을 좀 드리겠습니다.
이거는 진짜 그냥 판수 때려박기. 진짜 많은 판수를 이제 여러 사람과 다 돌아가면서 하는 거였는데 사실 이번에도 약간 그런 느낌으로 했거든요. 어제만 거의 한 40게임 했는데
와.
네, 그런 것 같아요.
승률이 혹시 어땠는지 여쭤봐도 될까요?
의외로 저그전이 제일 좋았고 나머지 종족전이 좀 안 좋아서 1경기를 지면 좀 큰일 날 것 같아요. 제 입장에서.
네, 저그전 승률이 가장 좋았다. 오늘 여러 가지로 박성윤 선수를 조금 어지럽게 하는 답변이 나오고 있는데요. 마지막 질문을 드리겠습니다. 집에서 경기장에 가까운 선수들도 있지만 또 멀리서 오는 선수들도 계시는데 참 집에서 경기장에 오는 길에 마인드 컨트롤을 하는 게 선수들에게 참 중요하다라는 생각이 듭니다. 경기장에 오는 동안 또 어떤 마음가짐을 가지셨을지도 궁금한데 박성현 선수는 오늘 또 여자친구분과 함께 경기장을 찾아와 주신 걸로 알고 있는데 경기장 오시는 길에 또 특별히 나눈 이야기가 있을까요?
얘기를 많이 이렇게 응원해줬죠. 제가 근데 오면서 좀 그냥 게임 생각 좀 많이 하느라고 사실 멍을 많이 때렸어요. 머릿속으로 게임 생각하느라고. 그래서 얘기를 막 많이 하진 않고 그냥 같이 이렇게 왔어요. 네.
존재만으로도 굉장히 든든하게 힘이 되어 주셨을 것 같습니다. 끝으로 C조 경기를 앞두고 있는 4명의 선수들에게 각각 각오를 청해 듣겠습니다. 먼저 박상현 선수 각오 한 말씀 부탁드립니다.
오늘 응원 많이 와주셔서 너무 고맙고 좀 큰일이 일어나지 않게 열심히 잘 해보겠습니다.
좋습니다. 김태형 선수.
지금 유일하게 4티어만 못 들었는데 오늘 이변 나면 좋겠어요.
기대하겠습니다. 도재욱 선수.
일단 2사강은 거의 통과했기 때문에 오늘도 꼭 그런 좋은 징크스가 적용됐으면 좋겠습니다. 파이팅!
좋습니다. 박성균 선수.
저도 24강을 너무 오랜만이지만 그래도 올라가겠습니다. 네.
C조 예측할 수 없는 경기들이 이어질 것 같아서 많은 분들이 기대하고 계실 것 같습니다. 멋진 승부 기대하겠습니다. 인터뷰 고맙습니다. 나의 레벨은 다르다 어나더 레벨 핫식스와 함께하는 ASL 시즌 15 24강 C조 경기가 여러분을 기다리고 있습니다. 어떤 두 명의 선수가 16강으로 향할 수 있을지 4명의 선수들의 대결 지금 바로 함께하시죠.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 3 here of the ASL Season 15 with Tastosis. I got to say, already Tastosis has been an amazing season. And today, another important day to see who's going to be advancing to the round of 16.
Oh, dude, today is probably my favorite group that we've had in a very, very long time. I'm just very excited about it in general, right? Like, we basically have one of the best Zergs, one of the best Protosses, and quietly one of the best Terran players. You know, we were chatting about it recently that Mind is in great shape. So I'm very excited about that because I don't know if you recall, like way back in the day when Flash and Mind were both new players. I was on the Mind train, not the Flash train. Like that was my guy.
Yeah, I mean it was. Look, I mean Mind has at times been just an incredible Terran, and honestly, for a couple of years, he was kind of lackluster. I mean, I was, to be honest, getting used for probably about 3 or 4 years of casting StarCraft 1, post StarCraft 2, just expecting him to get shut down. But the word on the street with the rest of the pros is that he is in incredible form and could be a real threat coming forward here.
Yeah, I think he could be. Like, he could make some upsets in a group that looks pretty straightforward, right? Like, when you have Soma and Best in a group, you're kind of looking at that and saying, well, I mean, these guys are both potential champions this season. They're just that level. But it's an awesome group. See, we're hitting that halfway point at this point. And, I mean, there's a lot of good groups this season. This is just, the lineup of players is quite fantastic.
Yeah, it's a really good lineup, man. I'm especially excited for Group D. You know, I've been watching Snow's stream pretty religiously, to be honest.
Yeah.
And the fact that Jaedong's in that group as well. Bishop, some of the people at home might not be aware, but he's a really strong Terran. That's actually the guy that dumpstered me at ACS when we were at that live event. He completely murdered me. Shuttle as well. I think Group D may be the most exciting group out of the groups that we have left over, but Group C is another amazing one as well.
Yeah, I think if you're just like a fan of StarCraft that isn't like super into playing and studying specific players, you might be right. Group D is like really awesome, having Jaedong and Snow and everything. Snow, unbelievable. I guess we'll talk more about him in the next one, but I think he could win the tournament. He is unreal how strong he is. But looking at this group, right? Like Soma and Best, we talk about so much every season. I've been trying to hype up Mind a little bit because I'm so excited about him. But Ample being back, it's funny because I like Ample. Okay, he's the most aggressive TVP pro out of everybody. Like he will attack Protoss nonstop. So he's like very volatile in that matchup and pretty damn good at it. But like literally someone asked me before the qualifiers, because I actually cast Ample quite a bit on my casting channel. They're like, do you think Ample can make it? Because people like his style. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. But here he is. And I can't wait to see how he does. But if he makes it out of that group, that's a huge upset.
Yeah, he's another Terran, yet another Terran that I think shows that there are just a lot of ways to play the race. And you're right, I do like his aggressive style. I'm always stunned by...
blasphemy, Tasteless. I can't believe you just said that.
It's true, though. No, I mean, the thing with Ample, though, honestly, it's like, I'm always amazed by any Terran that can be consistently aggressive and actually succeed. I do feel like to be a very, very good Terran, you most of the time have to be very defensive and kind of turtle through parts of the game, but apparently not with him. Coming into our first match here, Soma. This is just a phenomenal Zerg player. Very young, very determined. Did get top 4 in an ASL before, and you know, is hungry to try to come back. He has been overshadowed by the Queens, by the Larvas even, in the past here, and obviously this is another ASL here with Jaedong in the picture, and you know, Soma is trying to stay out ahead of the rest of these Zergs, and in his case, hopefully come out on top.
Well, I really do think, you know, obviously Soma's been like top 4. He's been in the finals. I do think that he is one of these guys that's destined to win ASL. He's so frightening. He feels in a lot of ways like one of the strategic leaders of the Zerg race. Like, he really, really, really knows his stuff. And I think him going up here against Ample, in my opinion, this is Ample's weakest matchup. Because, like, he's super aggressive here. Like, if you were, I don't know if you recall, but he had this funny nickname. When we were casting KSL and they were, like, showing the nicknames, it was something like the Whirlwind Terran, because he would just, his TVZ, like, every game he would just stim across the map and try to bust you before your Sunkens were ready.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah. It was this weird thing where
And
I'm
that's
like,
why
you just, like, go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just saying, this is why I felt like he wouldn't make it in. It's like, dude, everyone knows how crazy aggressive you are. Can this work at this level still?
Yeah, we're going to find out. You know, one thing about both these guys is they are aggro players. It does seem like if you have an aggressive Terran and an aggressive Zerg, generally the aggressive Zerg comes out on top. So we'll see what exactly Ample has in store for us here as we go into Game 1 of Group C here in the ASL.
So in the left-hand side, we have Soma. And on the right-hand side, we have Ample.
Before we get started in the analysis and speculation about this match, we just want to say to everybody who's watching, thank you so much for your support on Patreon. That's patreon.com/ASL English. If you have been meaning to, get on and support us and haven't already, now is the time we're going to give you that push. This production that we're doing here and our casting, it wouldn't be possible without people like you guys, and so your funding is very much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. And it's days like this with groups like this that I just realize how truly lucky we are to still be casting this game that you and I played, you know, as teenagers and never quite could let go of, and nor should it be let go of, because I mean, you know, people ask me these questions all the time, like, I mean, is StarCraft 1 still changing, like, the strategies and stuff? It's like quicker than ever, man. Like, it's actually insane, the variety that we have in Brood War right now.
It does feel like it is actually changing quicker than ever, by the way. That's not just like a sensational statement by Tastosis.
It absolutely is. Like, I remember talking about this back in the Kespa, like the peak of the Kespa days with all the teams, where people are like, are the strats still changing? Because even back then it was such an old game. And I'm like, yeah, like every 3 months or so you can really tell a difference in the way the game is being played. Nowadays, it feels like every about month and a half, there's stuff that's like so new that you have to figure out.
Yeah, it's something else, man. It's kind of crazy. By the way, we're going to have a barracks over here right away. And then it was very late barracks, by the way. Ample had like 350 minerals when he made that, so I don't feel too guilty about that. Oh, I see what he did. He came down and made the eBay here. That's why that happened. All right, very cool.
Yeah, it looks like he actually wanted to go command center first, and when he got there and there's no hatchery, you're like, oh, it's pool first. Damn, I'll die. So he starts. That is an incredibly late barracks. That's like 30 seconds late. So that's over 2 Marines late. So like you almost have to make the eBay. If these lings go straight across the map, it'll be very annoying to deal with. Like, I don't think he's going to die. That's a great wall he made. It's ling tight. But yeah, you want him to attack this eBay.
He is going to send 2 lings, though, no matter what. I'm glad to see Soma's doing this. This is a smart idea. There should be a Marine out in time, but this is at least going to confirm that the Terran is being honest here. That command center is going to start, as is the Zerg's 3rd hatchery. And this is going to be 3 hatchery before gas, although he's just now grabbed his gas as well.
Yeah, it's a really interesting opening from Ample. I like it, right? Like, he's trying to play a very greedy game as opposed to a very aggressive game. Soma, I'm not surprised that he went pool first. This is something I was going to bring up if there were proxy barracks at all from Ample, because of his aggressive nature and the perceived skill difference between these two. Soma being someone that's been in the finals and everything, and Ample someone that rarely makes it into ASL. The pool first just kind of makes sense. And Soma's the type of player, I think, that can go for a pool first like this, get no damage, and then just grind the game out.
Now we've got this SCV up here checking the high ground. There's no attempts here by Soma to destroy or basically make a path is probably the easiest way to put it, up here in the top right to then filter down there. But you do want to be vigilant for that. But this should be a bit of a slower game for a little bit here, as both sides are going to have to macro up and tech up. I do see a factory coming down here. Is there any chance that we see Ample go for any kind of mech? Would that make sense at all, Artosis?
He could go for mech here. Like, the placement of that factory doesn't tell me 100%. It definitely could be, but I would imagine it's going to be like a Valkyrie-based build. Hold on, I just saw something else start. I think you're right. I think it might just straight up be mech.
It looks like it might be that Goliath build, or like a variation of that Goliath build, which is, I always think this is a great build. Like, if I was going to have a run with Terran on the ladder, this would probably be one of like the first couple builds I would try to get nailed down.
Yeah, the Goliath build, like, it's not popular at all in the metagame anymore. Zerg's kind of figured out how to play against it, but it's like, it doesn't take a whole lot to do. It's like probably the simplest Terran build across all matchups. And look at this. He's getting 3 factories very quickly. He's getting their armor. You're 100% right. This is the Goliath build. He'll start with like a Vulture here. I'm sure he'll get the add-on relatively soon. But, this defensively, for instance, like, Mutas can't really do much against the Goliath build if you're sitting defensively. But it gets pretty tricky when you want to attack with, like, a 2-base mech.
Yeah, it's one of these builds where you just keep accumulating Goliaths to the point where the Mutalisks can't really do anything if they do, in fact, end up going for Mutas here. That being said, you don't have to stick with Mutalisks either, but, because the Zerg's basically in the dark, it can't really check what the Terran's doing. The Zerg may not be aware that mech's coming. One tell would be that the barracks is not continuously making Marines.
That's right, and the gas as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Between those two, someone knows it's a tech build. But the thing is, there's like a lot of tech builds. There's 111s, which aren't super popular, where you like rush up to like a Valkyrie or a science vessel. And honestly, that's what I would, if I was Soma, I might be thinking about that, because these Goliath builds are super off meta right now. Like, I haven't seen a pro gamer do like a Goliath-based multiple factory opening in quite some time, honestly. Like, I think it's been at least a few seasons of ASL since we've seen it used.
So he's going to get the +1 attack upgrade here and continue to crank out as many Goliaths as possible. We should have, that's going to be 9 mutas on the way, right, Artosis? And one would imagine probably eventually an armor upgrade coming in there as well.
Yeah, we definitely could see the armor from the mutas. And in fact, with some variations of the Goliath build, if you're going to go all in with it, it's generally considered better to get the armor upgrade before the attack upgrade. So that can actually kind of point us when we see that upgrade finish as to what direction Ample wants to go. Because you can definitely take this Goliath build and go into a big macro game and just kind of get upgrades and play almost like a Terran versus Protoss. Or you can try to hit like a very powerful 5-factory timing attack where you have like 24 Goliaths and 3 tanks.
Can you explain the rationale for getting the armor upgrade from the armory, and then that would make it an all-in? What is the thought process behind that?
Yeah, so attack upgrades are better for mech long-term. So like if you're going to be doing a macro build and going into like 2-1, you want to have the attack upgrades, because like you want +2 on your tanks, you want +2 on your Goliaths, you want +2 on everything. But if you're going to be doing it all in, you need to walk out and do a pressure first. And the plus armor on the Goliaths gives them 2 armors, so it reduces Zergling and Mutalisk damage dramatically and just keeps your Goliaths alive. and then the actual timing hits when you have 1-1. So it just helps with the very first push out, basically.
So the mutas are still back here harassing. Now, the giveaway that there's an attack coming is that there's no Goliath at all right now inside the main. How many Sunks are actually back at home? I see one and a second one that's on the way. There's two as well being made over here. Now, Goliaths are actually pretty bad for sunken colonies. It's important to note here. So, I mean, it can really curb your progress just having a few sunken colonies. And with the second sunken colony done, I don't know that either of these spots are pregnable for the Terran.
Yeah, it's a little bit tough. He did get that +1 attack, by the way, but it could be either way that he's going here. But yeah, the Sunkens he doesn't want to attack, but you know what? He walked out and he forced those Sunkens, which is really important. Now the Mutas are going to jump on top of the Goliaths here. Soma deciding he wants to reduce this Goliath count. And you know what? Ample is doing very well micro-wise. He's dealt a lot of damage to these Mutas. And Soma mostly trades out. He kills a lot of Goliaths, but loses a lot of Mutas as well. This actually looks pretty good for Ample.
Yeah, that was really bad by Soma. The moment that it started, I thought, okay, either an upgrade is about to finish from the Spire or this doesn't make any sense. And he almost played exactly into the Terran's hands there, because to lose that, a group of Mutas means there's now no way to really stop a push. He did get +1 attack, by the way. It seemed like a bit of an anti-timing. Terran also has +1 attack as well. Now, when you see this push, what you want to watch for is the one, or maybe there's going to be a second tank in this group. And all the repairs and the turrets and everything that's going to come down to try to protect that. Once the sunken colonies have been shelled and taken out, then it becomes very easy for the Goliaths to just walk in and get the killing blow off. Oh my God! He almost went into the range of the Sunks. Oh my
yeah, that's
God,
one way
to hold me,
dude. If you accidentally siege in sunken range, the game ends. It's really sad.
Yeah.
To tell you, I've done that plenty of times. But
me too when I play Terran. I know that feeling where you're like, oh, here we go. Now, siege animation has never taken longer.
There is a transition into Hydralisks here from Soma. And I love all the turrets that are being built, by the way. I think that this type of play of building mass turrets during a push is an underutilized technique in this matchup and actually against Protoss as well. But look, this push coming in, he might get flanked. It's possible that this gets broken by Soma. I think you wait for that to die, and maybe he's waiting for speed or range to finish on these Hydras. But if he can erase this push, Soma's not going to Ample's not really going to have anything left.
If he can use the Goliaths to basically body block the Hydra so they can't really get up onto the tank, that's going to be really good. A lot of this, it sounds silly, but a lot of it does come down to that extra splash damage from the tank. Okay, here we go. He's going to try to come in now. Oh my God, these Hydras are attacking the turrets. Tastosis, it's so bad.
Oh, yeah, he definitely needs to move those up. There are a lot of Hydras coming, but look, more reinforcements coming out from Ample. Another Siege tank, another 5 Goliaths joining in here. He might just barely hold on to here for now. His turrets have eliminated all the Mutalisks, but his ground force is just barely not strong enough, it seems. And with the amount of hatcheries that we have, this is 4-hatch Hydra. 5 units is not going to hold on.
Yeah, it's funny how much the turrets are just interfering with, the reach of the Hydras right now. The second tank is going to come. It's paramount that these sunken colonies get up in time. He's going to try to shove the tank in a little bit further. I'm not sure if that's in range of the sunken colony. Sometimes sunken colony range can be a little bit deceptive as his tank range is. Sorry, I meant to say tank range. You guys know what I mean. So the tank's going to continue to just hit away over at that extractor. Not sure if that's not because he can't target that sunken colony. Now, a second tank comes up, and things are really starting to heat up.
Can't believe that Sunken is actually hitting that Siege tank. That's the craziest hit ever. Yeah, that was one of those reposition hits. It's like a bug the Sunkens can do. But I can't believe that Ample actually got all these reinforcements up here. And now with 3 tanks, man, I think Ample might knock Soma down into the losers match. This is a real possibility.
Yeah, this is kind of crazy. I mean, with the third tank here, if he can get that into siege mode and put it somewhere safe, I just don't see an out right now. The tank's going to roam in here and try to set something up. The last sunken colony falls. Now we have 3 tanks total setup here. I do like that Soma is basically ready to intercept other tanks. Keep in mind, by the way, guys, Ample doesn't have another base. He's just trying to power through this with the one base that he has. So it's like, it's crazy. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, is there a floating command center over there? Or no? I think that's just the E-base.
I think he started a command center, like outside of his natural. Like, so I think he's thinking about taking that third now. And by the way, he's trying to come up with his reinforcements. He waited for a couple rounds and is trying to attack through, but the Hydra's staying there, trying to catch these reinforcements. This is incredibly important for Soma, who is losing his natural. So many drones going down that both of the hatcheries look like they're going to fall as well. Dude, Ample has basically done it now. I can't believe this.
When that second hatchery goes down, and keep in mind, that's half of the production. Okay, I think there might be another additional hatchery down at the bottom along with the expansion location, but like that's a lot less Hydras you can just get out in this game. And all it's going to take is for these tanks and Goliaths to set up and march right into that main base and get the killing blow.
I don't see anything that Soma can really do at this point, Taste. Looks like he's lost so much production, like you mentioned. A lot of Hydra's gone. His economy just shattered. He does have these Sunkens here that can like slow down the push a little bit, but look at, like, this is so smartly planned from Ample. He's even making like supply depots. He's saying, screw it, we're not going into the main base. We'll just sit here and bleed you out.
Yeah, there it is, GG. Soma taps out, and a remarkable play there from Ample. Another big plot twist. I think any betting man would look at this match beforehand and say, you know, this is a pretty easy call. Soma should take this. And then Ample coming in here with a kind of anachronistic play style. We haven't really seen that Goliath build in a long time. Certainly wasn't expecting that to be the build on that map specifically, but he does it. He pulls it off. And even with Soma trying to get in between and intercept reinforcements, Ample was very patient. He just let his units pull up until they were healthy enough to defend themselves and pushed out and closed out that game with a win.
Yeah, this is pretty wild. Like, Soma going down that losers match. I mean, the other side of this, Best versus Mind, these are both people that could theoretically beat Soma. If Soma goes out in the first round, that's the same thing as Mini going out, right? That's like, oh my God, what an upset.
Oh, it would be crazy. And we're halfway there, Tastosis. I mean, Soma loses one more and he's gone.
Yeah, I can't believe Ample won that. It's really impressive. And like I mentioned, I feel like that's his weakest matchup. So, I mean, if he already beat Soma there's real potential for him to move on to the round of 16, which would be, I mean, what a run.
Guys, we're going to go to a break, but coming up, we have Best versus Mind, a PvT. You do not want to miss it. We'll be right back.
상큼함 맥스, 칼로리 X, 맛있는 탐스 제로. 요즘 제일 탐나는 제로, 탐스 제로. 같이 떠나볼래?
솔직히 인간적으로 두 개 다 가졌어요, baby. 칼로리 제로, 맛은 제대로. 그래 걱정 빼고 고민 빼고 맘소리 빼고 This is zero life. This is zero life. 뺄건 뺐어 질성제이다 제로. 맛있어 제대로. 없어도 되는 건 빼고 살자 제로. 질성사이다.
And we're back. Good to see you guys again here at the ASL. Before we go into our match, we do want to say thank you, everybody who's been supporting us on Patreon. If you love StarCraft 1, if you love ASL, if you love Tasteless and Artosis, go to the Patreon. Whatever you can afford to do, we appreciate it. And do be sure to sign up for a year.
Yeah, guys, you know, this is something that we hope to do really, actually forever. Like, I can officially say that I will happily cast ASL until I'm 80 years old or however old I end up being. This is the greatest tournament out there, and I love it to death. It's so much fun. The amount of upsets that we're still having, the new strategies, the new up-and-coming players, it's just amazing.
Yeah, and this is another great season. This is probably our last season without Flash, unless Flash decides to take off a season after he's done with his military service. And look, anytime that Flash is in an ASL, there's more than a 50% chance that he is going to win that ASL. So, this ASL is exciting because, hey, man, we really don't know who's going to take it.
That is very, very true. I feel like there's like 5 or 6 people that I'm really looking at that have potential to do it. And this might be one of them. We talk about this every season, literally. Best has been like a top 3 Protoss in the world since Remastered came out, right? So it's like we're going on 6 years of at least, and probably even before that, but we weren't really following the scene before Remastered. We were more StarCraft 2. But this guy, he's unbelievably good, but he underperforms in ASL specifically all the time.
Yeah, we were expecting this guy to take an ASL a long time ago. For those of you guys that actually watch StarCraft 1 streams on AfreecaTV, you have definitely seen his matches, and like he plays so well. Like he's beating Flash and all these other incredible players. But when it comes to this tournament, he does seem to underperform. And it's weird because, Best, we've actually met him. We've hung out with him a little bit. He's a very confident guy, very charming.
Yeah.
But tournaments like ASL, they affect certain players in certain ways. This is the peak of StarCraft and esports, is the ASL. So that pressure can get to him. Now, Mind, he's also got an interesting story. Mind, for periods of time, was like the thinking man's Terran. Like, he was the guy who was figuring out Terran in ways that were really helping anybody who was a student of the Terran race. But honestly, his play became kind of meh. But it does seem like he's dusted off his Terran and all the matchups, and supposedly he's in great shape. So this is going to be a pretty big testing ground. Now, that being said, I do think Best is the favorite. I think he's a safe call. But if Mind beats Best, I don't know who we can lose to, Tastosis.
Yeah. It's like this is a map and a player that's going to be hard for Mind here, but he really is in fantastic shape. I've been watching a ton of Mind's games. I've been watching his stream. I've been able to cast some of his stuff. He's in great shape. This is going to be maybe the best match of the night.
All right, guys, let's get into this Best versus Mind. The winner goes on to face off against Ample in the winner's match, Group C here in the ASL.
So over on the left side, we saw Mind. Over here on the right, we have Best. And, we've talked a lot about, Heartbreak Ridge and how there's all sorts of various cheeses that you could see in this matchup. But I feel like Best is someone that may just look at this and say, yeah, let's play a macro game. He's so good at that. He's really, very few Terrans in the world can just stand up to Best playing a standard PvT.
Yeah, he's very comfortable in the matchup. He really knows how to kind of bully the Terran around with his macro. One thing about Best, too, he's always done just very unique stuff in matchups. Like, he uses Dark Archons more than probably any other player. Not that we're going to have one in PvT. That's very unlikely. But point in case, he's an excellent player. And I look forward to this game, especially on this map. I think this map, specifically with PvT, is an interesting map because it's hard for Terran to get a third, but it's also hard for Protoss to get too many bases as well. So I don't know. I'm excited for this one.
Yeah. That is a good point. There's not that many bases on the map, right? Like, if you think about modern Terran versus Protoss and what that will oftentimes look like Protoss will basically, get up to 4 bases relatively quickly, and then as Terran takes a third, you take a fifth, and then it's kind of okay, now Terran might be able to take a 4th base, but then as we get into that, and that's standard, in this matchup, that's a very normal thing. Well, I mean, how many bases can Protoss get without being on Terran's doorstep? it's 5.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
it. So
that's the big question.
yeah. And if that's like kind of where you're capping off on realistic bases, that's playable for Terran. You know, like 5 bases you're not really afraid of. Like that's every single game that goes up to 12 minutes is Protoss has 5 bases. So if that's really all you're worried about, it's not too bad.
Let's talk about some of this modern PvT style we've seen here. Speed shuttles in mass have become very trendy in the matchup. Now there were periods in time before this where it was seen, but we've seen a lot more Psystorm used here. It doesn't mean that is the endgame tech that we have to see from Protoss. I mean, he very well could go carriers or something else like that. But if we get to that mass speed shuttle style, I'm going to be very interested in covering it. One thing to note as well is that the main base for Terran, I mean, it's true for Protoss, but it matters for Terran in this case. It's huge. It's a lot to defend. There is almost 180 degrees of points where the Protoss can try to fly in with an Arbiter.
Yes.
For recall, or a shuttle with a Reaver, or a lot of shuttles with Reavers and other stuff. So that does put a bit of a strain here. It doesn't mean that Terran can't stop it, but they have to make a lot of turrets. Like a lot of turrets.
Yeah.
And so the thing about that is that, okay, but then maybe they don't engage with that at all, and you've spent a lot of money kind of not getting yourself into a great spot. So we want to watch for that coming up here.
You're completely right. That is kind of the hard thing about maps that look like this. If you're not in a corner base, and generally maps where you're not in a corner base, you also have a wall around your base as opposed to being on higher ground than around your base, right? Like that's normal. Like look at Neo-Sylphid, look at Heartbreak Ridge. There's a lot of examples of that. But like that means not only do you need maybe a lot of anti-air more than on a corner base, but you need like buildings flying or like a Wraith up there, you know, all sorts of things. And as you said, if Protoss decides not to do that, like the amount of money that you're spending defensively can be very annoying. So yeah, that is, and I wish I had an answer for people. It's just like, no, maps like this just for that aspect are very difficult to play.
So I guess we're going to have the second gateway thrown down here. No, sorry, Robo first, then probably a gateway a little bit later on. One thing to note, by the way, if you click on that patch, the one in the top right there, it says 0 minerals. So basically a worker can just mine through that and not collect the mineral, if that makes sense. So you always want to make sure that you don't let any worker just sit up there.
Oh my God.
DT drop.
DT drop. Dude, remember last season how many DTs we saw in the round of 24? It was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Like, everyone who made a DT won. It was so, even in the PvPs, it's like, oh yeah, this guy made DTs and then he won. But kind of wild to see that out of best here in a best of 1. Not that it's a bad build in any ways.
No, it's
like
good.
you'll probably go up into Arbiter pretty quickly after that. But Mind looks like he wants to put a little bit of pressure on across the map, and this is very good against someone buying that much tech in the early game.
Yeah, if you put pressure on like this, sometimes they just don't quite have enough Dragoons to deal with this. Of course, if the DTs, you know, if the Protoss does hold, and sometimes you can with just a few Dragoons, if you just get really good shots off, you can do just fine. But keep in mind, you know, this aggression, it really can be a double-edged sword here. Luckily for Terran, he's going to be going back, so he will be in a position to try to defend. But the 2 DTs are going to be out in a second, and they're going to be in that shuttle, and that shuttle is going to be inbound towards the Terran's main.
Now, a lot of this is going to come down to, does he scan? Right? He is making a starport, so he can get a Wraith out for that anti-air. I love these mines being placed. Like, these are going to be incredibly important. But if he utilizes both scans, he's very likely to die to this. If not, like if he saves a scan, I think he'll be all right.
So 1 Wraith is making. Now the Wraith basically eliminates the attack from being an ongoing thing. And keep in mind there's no Dragoon in the shuttle, or if there is, I missed it. But I think it's just 2 DTs. And so this is going to shut this down. And Wraiths seem to be on the rise as far as trends go. Because there's been so much more drop play in general from Protosses. He's going to drop these DTs out now. He's going to try to go for the Marines if he can. But when you see that Wraith is going to come out, you have to decide where exactly you want to try to put that those DTs down at.
Yeah, look at this. He gets the shuttle, but the DTs are split. He only has one scan available right now. So that is a little bit annoying. He'll kill this DT in the main. No! No! You must be kidding me! Tasteless!
That is huge. Now, Best has got a real opportunity right now. He needs to figure out exactly who he wants to target down. He is going to lose that one in the main, but of course this DT over here in the natural can go uncontested. 2 observers out. Protoss continuing to develop. Arbiter tech inbound. Possible 6-gate Arbiter. Maybe that, or he's going to expand.
Yeah, I think it's very likely that he will expand. This DT drop, by the way, was successful. You have to call that a success. He used like 4 to 5 scans there and ended up losing a fair amount of SCVs. He lost a good amount of mining time. So you can see that Best has jumped up by 15 supply despite losing, you know, the shuttle and the 2 DTs. He's going up into his Arbiter tech. He's even got a Forge going, 3rd Nexus on the way. A pretty good position for Best after that.
Yeah, and you know, the Arbiter, it's a nice layup here after you go DT, because they've spent a lot on scans, and then, you know, it's not that common anymore that Terran just loses to Arbiters because they can't scan, but they can in this specific situation. If the Terran tries to become aggressive and an Arbiter pops out and, you know, you go through 1 to 2 cloaks and then you run out, you'll just lose your army.
It's it can be a tough situation there for sure. The couple goons actually being caught out on the map. Mind getting pretty aggressive here. You know, this is the point in the game where Best is going to have the smallest possible army. But, you know, does he have enough Trigoons to just hold on here? Looks like he has about 7 right there after losing 2. And this is a pretty good setup.
Yeah, was he being a little bit too timid with this push positioning? Oh, I see. He's going to drop in the main. Oh, this is very cool. They're both going all over the place here. Now, there is one cannon very smartly placed, but he could always just run up onto the high ground where the natural is.
Looks like he might just try to snipe whatever probes he can or just be annoying over here. In the meantime, Best has walked around the other side of this little push and is going to clear some of these mines. But look at this. Now, Mine sees that, and he leapfrogs ahead of his mines and turrets and will go after the natural now.
Yeah, he does. Oh, Mine Hit does take that tank out. Beautifully done. I don't know if these Dragoons can get over here and do the damage they need to do. I guess it's only 3 tanks total. As long as these tanks can keep dishing out splash damage shots, he should be okay. But it looks like, you know, with just soon to be 1 tank remaining, there it goes. It goes down now. Seems like Mine's push may have been stopped.
Yeah, the push is certainly over. He got some probes. You know, he killed a lot of units in here as well. I feel like after that, Best probably has the advantage, but like I'm surprised with how much Mind did end up doing with that push, considering it was kind of like a motley crew of units that he sent over. It's like 3 tanks and 2 Marines and 4 Vultures and a Wraith, you know, and let's see what we can get done.
So the 5th factory is coming down here now. Mind is going to keep cranking stuff out. One of the worst things that can happen to a Terran, though, is if he stays on 2 bases and tries to do a timing push and it gets shut down, it's a lot easier for the Protoss to close the game out. I mean, at this point in time, you know, you've taken out a good amount of the tanks. Protoss's tech is already up. A lot of times that second push is even weaker than the first. Here comes that Arbiter now. And again, like we said at the start of this game, you know, the 3rd base for Terran, it's not easy to fetch.
It is pretty far out there, right? Like, he's getting a lot of factories. He's kind of pushing out to a more forward position. But what I'm most worried about here is he kind of, like, utilized all of his early units in that one little push that we saw. And sure, he, like, reduced some units and he got some probes and everything. But I don't see a solid plan to play around the Arbiter that's now out, right? Like, the Arbiter that's now out, we're just, like, a little over a minute away from a possible recall. And there's no way on 2-base economy that you can build turrets and put mines in your main, you know?
Yeah,
like, I mean, you could lay a few mines, but
like
you can't go anti-Arbiter.
Oh, you're 100% right. I mean, when you see a push come out like that, it's, I mean, there's just no money for turrets. If you were to make turrets, the push would have been that much weaker.
Yeah.
And the Protoss still holds. So you have to imagine that as the journey for the Terran of acquiring that third base and trying to develop into late game gets further and further to that point, the more tempting it's going to be for the Protoss to try to do a huge recall into the main and then try to really dislodge the Terran from their position.
That's what's so difficult, and you can see he's starting to lay some mines. He's putting like a few turrets down there. But the thing is, you need so many turrets to actually kill an Arbiter. I think that these turrets, in many ways, are more about getting rid of the Observer, so you don't know where the mines are. Like you basically at this point, your defense is you need, if Protoss recalls, it needs to be on a mine clone.
Yeah, and that is one of the dumbest and easiest ways for Protoss to just lose a game is they recall and like a couple mines pop up and everything gets blown up. But, the problem is when you don't have a ton of turrets, you kind of can't force the recall to happen in a certain spot. Like when people see all these turrets coming up and the Arbiter still gets the recall, it's like, oh, the turrets didn't do anything. Well, it looks like that, but really they forced the recall very early and you can just put mines there and kill it. But when there's not, 7 or 8 turrets there, the Arbiter basically just ignores that, can go right over where the SCVs are. This is something I heard Flash say that I always thought was so smart, is that if you can, always recall on top of the SCVs.
Yeah.
Because even if everything goes wrong, the SCVs are going to be killed in that process. Splash damage to the tanks will kill stuff, the mines will kill the workers,
Exactly. Like if they have mines in the mineral line, it's like, well, at least you killed all the SCVs. There you go. Like you just like wrecked, in this case it would be half of the economy, which is going to be a quality recall no matter what. But right now, Mind, he's built up a fair amount of supply. Like he has enough that he should be able to hold on here. He's got a lot of mines in his main base now. But you can see Best is jumping up to those 5 bases that we were talking about, with Mind just now starting that additional command center. But dude, that command center is extremely, extremely late.
It is so late. It's crazy. Look, we're like almost 15 minutes into this game, and the third command center isn't done, Artosis. It's one of the latest third command centers in a PvT I've casted.
Yeah.
But I get it. It's hard to take a third in a game like this. And so what Mind is doing is he's being very conservative. But this Arbiter's, it's got 200 energy. I don't see a recall yet. Perhaps he wants to try to basically hammer in the front with triple stasis. Just look for an opening. Stasis what you can. And,
that's possible. He comes in, and Stasis is the vessel. Okay, that Stasis is not that great, but here he goes. He's going to attack. I mean, if Mind can shred this army, he'll be all right, but I don't think he can. This army's huge.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen the other Stasis a little bit sooner, just because the splash damage is so profoundly damaging to what the Protoss has. But, as we see more and more units drop here, I mean, the Zealots are just going to be able to do so much damage. We see Spider Mine shots getting pulled in here. If you can get those Zealots around those tanks over there in the back, that would be huge. No doubt Best is also rapidly macroing back at home and trying to produce as much as he possibly can. So moments like this, it can be a bit misleading. It looks like Terran survives that, but the scary part is that the economic engine that has been developed here by Best is so profoundly strong that he will be close to remaxing very shortly here. We're going to see these supplies chunk out extremely quickly.
Yeah, if Mind can kind of like get up to a very powerful supply once again, secure this base, and then take that 4th down at 6 o'clock, then we have ourselves a real game, right? Like that's the point where I'm like, okay, this game actually could swing in the other direction.
Looks like some of the units are getting fished into the tank line. Yeah, I gotta say, man, Best, that attack, I gotta be critical. He should have had the third stasis a little bit quicker. Also, and I mean, I get the idea. He sees the vessel, right? And so he has 2 stasises in that one. He doesn't want to mess this up. Why is this Arbiter coming here? Okay, he doesn't have enough
energy, man.
Yeah. But, he had 2 stasises in there, right? So he froze the vessel. But here's what you want to do. you want to bring the Arbiter that has one stasis in first and try to stasis tanks, and then have the other one come in and get the 2 stasises off. He's actually not quite able to recall just yet. All right, there we go.
Yeah, and he didn't have enough energy at the beginning of that either. Look at that, jumps up and snipes the vessel immediately. Oh my God, this is like this is comedy on these Arbiters. But you know, Mind has a big enough army. He's not losing his command center. He's not losing a ton of SCVs. And so like this is very annoying to deal with, but he can deal with it.
Yeah, I gotta say, you know, it's not bad plays by Best, but you know, he's not exactly getting the killing blows off that he's going to need. You know, like right now, these Dragoons, they can't really go anywhere. Okay, here we got another big recall. Oh! It's crazy how close that was.
Right on the edge here. A lot of Dragoons getting in. He's clearing out a bunch of these turrets and everything, too. Some of the mines being cleared. You know, as you get down to just Dragoons, these siege tanks will deal with it reasonably well. But this is highly annoying. He can actually do things like target down these armories, and that's about the most annoying thing that can happen during a recall, honestly.
Again, though, you know, Protoss is not getting these crippling blows. You know, this is not a map where there's a lot of bases for Protoss. Basically, every base that Protoss has are the bases Protoss gets for the rest of the game. Getting the center base, not really an easy thing to do, or keep for that matter. Terran or Protoss, and usually if someone gets that, it's Terran, and then they win the game. And it seems to me like 6 o'clock is going to be taken here very soon. I feel like Mind's chances are getting better and better here.
You know, if he can hold 6 o'clock and reset up his anti-recall defense in the main base, because I feel like the best move here is another recall to the main. Because, like, basically your first recall will never be as good as your second recall. The first recall goes into all their defenses, but it actually clears a lot, and it takes a lot of dedicated attention and effort to put the mines back down, put the turrets back down, and have it be as quality as it was earlier in the game. So I feel like a move like that would be very, very strong here from Best. But yeah, if Mind can like actually takes that 6 o'clock and can max out, then he can kill bottom right, and the game becomes pretty simple from there.
Yeah, we're getting to the dilemma, and there's certain maps where this happens in the Protoss. Like, it happens on Eclipse if Terran gets a 4th base, where you suddenly look at it and you're like, well, I don't really have an angle to get in there now, you know? The main, however, is recallable, as Tastosis mentioned earlier, but it's kind of hard to find an area to fight other than that. And so there's this degree of predictability into where the Protoss is going to try to come into. We have a lot of mines over here. Honestly, not a lot of turrets, not enough turrets, I'd say, to dictate, you know, where a fight's going to happen. And so he's going to come in any second now and go for this recall.
Here he goes. That single turret, of course, not going to do too much. He recalls right onto these depots. This is almost completely Zealots. The one Dragoon gets blown up. So the mines are going to do very well here. He does have a couple High Templars to help storm off maybe some groups of units that come up to clear. See if he can hit those storms nicely. Yeah, very, very good storms. But, you know, when it's only a Zealot recall, that's a lot easier to clear out.
Oh, dude, this is hilarious. I only just now realized that this command center's put there. That's so funny. He's such a turtle. Oh, Tastosis, it's so Terran. It's just too much.
This is what we are forced to do, Tasteless.
This is what happens, Tastosis. You're like, do you know my buildings can also fly? He, like, picks it back up. He's like, I'll move this somewhere safe. But he's like, I'm just going to mine from a super long distance right now. This is so funny. He takes out the vessel there. Beautifully done. And he's going to pull back away. And so the game goes on.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Whoop. No, it doesn't. You shut your mouth, Tasteless. The game is over, clearly.
I've never been more wrong about anything, clearly. He just taps out and leaves. GG, yeah. There you have it.
It's tough. The DT drop, I think, did enough. And when you see the DT drop, you know it's going to be quick Arbiter. So Mind tried the counterattack. And it did better than I thought it would. But obviously, it did not do enough to say that you can take a 15-minute third base. Like, you need that a lot earlier. And he just wasn't able to quite do it, even though Best had some silly attacks in there. A tough game there for Mind. But I think you could see a little bit what I was talking about. Like, he's very, very good right now. It's just some stuff went wrong for him in the early game, and it becomes very hard, especially against one of the world's best Protoss, to come back at that point.
Yeah, that was a fun one. And so this meet's coming up. We're going to have Best versus Ample. Oh, Artosis, I couldn't be more excited.
That could be a fun one. Ample is like really aggressive. I'm sure he has some sort of build prepared for Best here, where he's going to try to maybe catch him off guard with a funny amount of units, get some damage done. And if you get that damage done early on, man, that can snowball the rest of the game.
And remember, the winner of that match is going to move on and go into the round of 16 in what has already been a really fun day of games. We got a lot more games ahead too, guys. It's only been 2 best of ones.
That's right. My God.
Feels like we've been here for a while, but yeah, just 2 games. So nice long day of StarCraft, man.
Indeed it is. A lot of fans in that audience today. You can see Caster Muse in that front row enjoying the beautifulness that is ASL Group C. We're going to go to a quick commercial break. When we get back, Best versus Ample.
Welcome back, everyone. It's time to go into the winner's match of Group C. This is going to be Best versus Ample. I'm really excited for this match coming up here. Last game I think Mind put up a pretty good fight, but I don't think that really exhibited what Best's PvT was like. Mind played like super defensive and super cautious, and I think Ample is just more of an active player, so I don't think we can have a game that looks like that again. I do think it's also fair to say that Best is probably once again the favorite going into this best of 1.
For sure. I would put Best as the favorite in Protoss vs. Terran. Probably against everybody, to be completely honest. Like, there's Terrans that can beat him, but it feels like he's so robust in the matchup as well. He's very, very strong. After last season where Rush and Royal were the finalists, they had this big show match against Best and Snow, like a team show match. And Best and Snow ended up winning like 9-2. It was crazy. Like, they are in such good shape in this matchup. I think it's incredibly difficult to ever take Best down. And for Ample, like, he's got to bring his absolute best aggressive build here if he wants to have a chance.
Yeah, just the best of 1. Anything can happen. We're going to go now on to Dark Origin for our map. Mixing it up here as we go into Game 3 in this group. Round of 24.
In the top left, we have Best. And in the bottom right, we have Ample. So Dark Origin, I mean, this is a map where you definitely could have some sneaky type of plays with like that back entrance and stuff. I don't know if that's something Ample's going to try to utilize. I've seen a lot of Ample's games lately. He has some really interesting like fast expansion into like 3 factory pressure type of builds. But I think if you're Best and you're thinking about this match in the right way, like a 2-gate observer or a 3-gate observer or a quick reaver, any of that's going to be pretty good. Like, the one thing you don't want to do is take a quick 3rd base against Ample.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you can't just do like 2-gate observer, 3 base. I feel like that's exactly how you die.
Exactly how.
Best, he's got a pretty good range. He does seem, as far as play styles, I should say, he does seem like he's a player that is fine playing a little bit of an older looking style. Not just this season, but just in general. He's just very good at kind of doing those traditional Protoss builds. And, we've got a lot of time here to kind of unpack this game and see what exactly is going to happen. We know that there's not going to be any proxying because the Pylon and the Gateway are in the main here now. What do you think about this map in general, Artosis, when it comes to long PvT games?
Well, honestly, I haven't seen like a long PvT game. They've all come to a head reasonably quickly. I see those like 3 bridges, and that's the first thing that I really think about, where it's like, okay, whoever has control of the middle you can't walk over the bridges, so you have to go around, right? Like you just 3 little bridges like that. Those things are like, in fact, like bridges have been taken out of a lot of maps because you simply can't get across them if your opponent has units on the other side. It's like going up a small ramp or something. It's just it's not thick enough. So I feel like there's going to be like a lot of movement around the edges. Like if Ample wants to play a macro game, right, secure your 3 bases, then probably just move to the north on the right side of the map and just take over the right side, something like that.
You know, it's funny. I like what you said about the bridges. It could not be more true. There's this weird thing about Brood War that you have to actually play the game to really experience this firsthand and get an appreciation for it. But that it's hard to force a victory through a ramp or a bridge. It's just hard to get the units to over there. Like they will oftentimes try to turn around and find another path. Like you really have to like fight the pathing so hard to get it over there. And so it's this incredible defender's advantage that you get in Brood War. It's not unfair, but it's like part of the game, you know?
Yeah, it really makes an area that's like very easy to contain, very easy to control. But of course there are other paths. It's like one of the most important things for an interesting StarCraft 1 map is you have to have multiple paths that you can choose, but you don't want to have them too far apart from each other as well, because then the game only becomes counterattacks. You know, like for instance Eclipse, like you have those multiple paths, you have like 3 paths, but they don't really join up except like right near your opponent's base or your base. So like I feel like Eclipse, right, like late game you'll see only counterattacks for the most part unless someone's just attacking stupidly, and then you're like, yeah, I just intercept that and kill it. But like this type of game, I kind of like how everything joins in the middle. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where, like,
sure,
yeah, you can choose this path, but your opponent can go intercept it if they want, or they can try the counterattack.
We've got the Vulture coming in here. You know, it's not every day the Vulture gets in the main. This is a very standard move, by the way, from Terran, is to try to basically run up the ramp. Good control here from Best. Again, I'm a little bit stunned that we're seeing a Vulture get in here, because getting a couple probe kills early on is, like, just so massive.
Well, luckily for Best, he's not going to get any probe kills. Dude, he's damaged. He's gotten 5 shots off on probes, but he just couldn't get him on the same probe quickly enough. And, like, if you don't get it to shoot basically one after another on a probe, you get that one heal, and then you just don't. Then you need to 3-shot the probe. So the Vulture actually only counts as a scout there. It doesn't get those kills. That would have been amazing.
Blows my mind. Like, just watching that happen, I'm like, how is that possible? I would have lost 7 probes back there and left the game. Crazy.
Yeah. You know, between the probe pull obviously was kind of nice, but like having the Zealot be near the Vulture was important, because if there's no unit near it, the Vulture will auto attack the same probe. But when the Zealot comes near, it's like you actually have to target the Vulture the entire time, and if you don't click very quickly on exactly the right probe, then you're not 2-shotting anything, and then it's like, well, now suddenly our damage output is down significantly.
Vultures are going to continue to lay mines around the map here as we're seeing Best continue to develop up. And, you know, so far it's not clear what the tech is, but it could be exactly what we were a little bit worried that Best might try to do, which would just be 2-gate into 3 Nexuses. Now, that being said, you know, there is a dropship being made here. You know, it is one of the easier ways to lose the game is to go for 3 Nexuses and then get dropped. You just don't have a lot of Dragoons to cover that much area sometimes.
You see that Best has like a very good spread of the Dragoons. He is going for that 2-gate Observer into 3rd Nexus that we were both kind of warning about. You know, like this is the situation where, well, 2-gate Observer is good. Like you get a lot of Dragoons with that. Like it's pretty solid defensively. But this should come down to, like, can Ample get the drop in and do some damage? Because if he can get in there and actually get some significant damage, like, he could probably set up a follow-up push that's really deadly.
I totally agree. Okay, so he's going to just grab these Vultures. Again, I think this is a pretty droppable map. I like the spread, by the way, from Best with the Dragoons. He's really kind of watching for everything. I love the robotic support bay way out there where the Terran's just not going to scan and see it. We've got a drop coming in here now. He needs to target down that drop ship if he wants to try to win this fight.
That's
Beautifully
one of the worst drops I think I've seen. Honestly, I don't want to be too critical, but like that, I'm not sure what he's doing so far. He's had multiple opportunities with vultures to get like good amount of probe kills, and he just hasn't been targeting. He hasn't been making great choices with how to utilize them, unfortunately. He is going into, you know, this is the standard follow-up to a drop. You go armory and 3 factory, throw some turrets down. But the fact that Best has basically taken no damage while getting a pretty quick third, he has to be feeling amazing here. It doesn't seem like Ample has any real choices for continued aggression.
Yeah, I guess these 2 vultures are going to get through, but, you know, there's just enough here that I don't think this is going to really get much done. I guess 1 vulture can get into the main, but there's even a Dragoon over here to try to deal with this. And, you know, it's easy to dismiss a lost vulture. I mean, it's almost the price of a pair of Zerglings, but, you know, if you don't get any value with these units at all, like any game where you're the Protoss and you just kill their drop ship or kill their drop, like whatever comes out of it, I mean, you just look at that and you go, I guess I get to get a lot bigger now. You know, it's a real investment to get the starport, the add-on, the dropship, and then to not get anything done with it when you could have just made more factories early on. It's huge.
The vultures are almost always on a one-way mission. So, you know, dropship openers generally will give you less supply than any other opener as Terran, so you kind of need damage to make up for that. And he simply hasn't found it. You know, he's thrown away a lot of vultures. You can see he's already down 20 supply, which is not where you're supposed to be at 8 minutes and 30 seconds.
He is going to start his 3rd command center, which is fine. I think that's probably better to do that than to go up to like 5 or 6 factories here and try to push out. Had he killed, you know, 10 probes or something, then I think it is fine to make a bunch of factories and then try to go for the killing blow.
Well, right now, like, there's a Wraith, there's some really good turret placement, some mines going down, a siege tank left in that main base as well. So, kind of give it... Wow, I can't believe that... How did that observer? Dude, that's the funny thing about missile turrets is the head has to be pointing towards it. And so the head happened to be pointing towards the left, I think, there as the observer flew near it. He flew it out just in time. Crazy.
Oh, I didn't know about that. That's actually a funny little bit of trivia there. Another drop over here. Keep in mind that it looks like cannons are going to be warped in. If there's one there, there's probably another one in the main and even another one to top that off, probably in the natural as well. But, I mean, this is a pretty steady progression of growth here for Best. I am really liking the way he's handled himself this game, and he seems to be getting himself into a good spot. Now, that being said, I don't think that, you know, Ample is necessarily losing this game. I think he's just not in a very comfortable spot. But you can kind of run the clock here. I mean, I don't think there's any pushes Ample can do to win, so why would you push? Just try to build up, develop, and get your armory upgrades.
You know, you might be able to just kind of turtle into 4 bases here. It looks like a map where maybe there could be some cool Arbiter plays or something. There is a decent amount of surface area, but, you know, not as bad as Heartbreak Ridge that we were already watching with Mine against Best. But Best is going for, like, the Reaver into Masked Gateway style. And this is, like, the opposite of the Arbiter style. You know, you and I were actually kind of talking on the commercial break some about this. How, like, that's probably why Arbiters are so popular, is because this type of build is so popular and they require, like, an opposite way to play as Terran. But yeah, against this type of play, you actually do want to be kind of turtly. You can't really attack, like, a speed shuttle gateway man.
Right. This is probably going to be just 1 robo here for Best. He's more of a traditional Protoss player here. Oh, what is that? Okay, no, so I was like, is it going to be 2 robo? He's going to get up to the Templar Archives here. And definitely pocket 4 Templars into a speed shuttle. That's one of the key things you need in order to combat Terran.
Right now, the Vulture's out, trying to be active here. Hilarious watching the Vultures get 12 Vultures versus a Goon on a ramp, man. No chance for the Vultures. He has to turn around. He's going to be able to scout this brand new 4th Nexus. You know, maybe kill the cannon, maybe delay mining slightly, but no real chance to kill it off. But good scouting intel here from Ample, who... honestly, he's playing a pretty rad macro game. Like, all of his harassment has failed, but, like, he's following through. Like, I feel like he's playing a solid game here.
Yeah, I mean, so far so good. We've got the vessels coming out now. And this is going to be a frustrating moment for the Protoss because you can't really get in there and attack anywhere. I mean, you're not going to cross the bridges. That should not work. There's no way you're going to be able to come down that far right side of the map, down those stairs. Well, here we go. I said he's not going to try that. He's going to go for it, Artos. Let's see if he can get this done. He does have 3 shuttles with speed.
Well, I guess it really comes down to what those shuttles can do. Ooh, a Reaver gets in the middle, but doesn't really get its shots off. This is a pretty wasteful attack, I want to say, but maybe it works. A lot of speed lots are getting on top of these siege tanks now. God, man, he just shoved a square peg through a round hole.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even... I am actually stunned he got in there. I want to just say that is so much harder to do than it looks. The fact that he actually got in there like with that, it blows me away. But, you know, with all that said, I mean, there's still a tank on the low ground and a tank on the high ground. You know, Zealots are going to have a difficult time trying to get in here.
No support units left over is making it kind of hard to hold on any further. I'm not sure exactly the factory count. I think it's only like 5 or 6, but he needs to retake that area near the bridges. At first, he was still holding it okay, but I think at this point, Best is starting to gain a real advantage. No mining at that third base, having a hard time getting more units down, and Best just macroing freely.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he's just going to come through here and clobber that position, I mean, I'm honestly blown away that that went as well as it did. Even with the Reaver getting killed before it's shot, he still, like, got through there. That's kind of crazy. But the next couple of attacks are not going to be as easy. He is going to come down and try to target these tanks over in the back. The Dragoons are not great against tanks, but if you could just get him in range... Oh, here comes a shuttle.
Ooh, not that many units coming out here for Ample. It really does seem like Best is on the brink here. Both of their supplies are like kind of low, but you just don't see any siege tanks really left over. And Best, he's starting to diversify a little bit, getting some High Templars mixed in there as well. These 2 tanks on the high ground really being the heroes here for Ample, but it doesn't feel like he's going to get a proper foothold at his third base again.
Yeah, I mean, Best, I'm so impressed with how he's doing this. This is so tricky to do, but he's just got that tank count low enough. And, you know, when he gets the shuttle in here, especially with the Templars, he can blanket storm these SCVs or maybe blanket storm the Vultures or both. I mean, both of them are basically acceptable. And the thing that's really happening as we're watching this right now that's so cool is that you can see that there's no way for Terran to ever quite get a comfortable amount of units to really deal with this, where, you know, Best, he's been mining the whole time, he hasn't been interrupted. A ton of SCVs have been lost. We see a whole chain of SCVs moving down to try to replace the ones that were killed off there. And back at home, Best continuing to you know, crank out more and more units and grow over here. And we may see another huge attack over on this third base that just kind of thins out the tank count and keeps Terran oppressed.
You know, that was looking really good for Best for a while, but like kind of looking at the numbers and things and those spinning armories make me think Ample still has a chance in this game. Like, he's got 3-2 on the way, so if he gets up to 3-2 and he can kind of solidify everything and then push up to a 4th base, you know, the map is a little bit small. So, you know, you get that 4th base going and you have such fantastic upgrades. That's where Best will have a hard time. I think Best needs to attack some more here, because if he doesn't finish the game, Ample has a real shot at making this a very long game that could go either way.
Yeah. I don't know about attacking in here, man. The barracks here, the mines, the turrets even in the way. Can he actually pull this off? He's going to storm that first set of tanks, 2 in a row there to open that up. He could storm the Vultures in the back, and I guess storm the SCV's mighty gas. Okay. You know, this is...
Dude, he is rabid really today. Look at this attack. Like, he can't stop himself. He just keeps going and going and going.
Ample, though, square peg through circle hole, man, Artos. Yeah. This is crazy.
It's wild to see him just force into here. It's such a cost-inefficient way to do it, but he's got that edge in the game, and it seems like he wants to push it into a victory.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, if Terran loses that position, the game is over. Wow, 4 observers. He just fans these out on the map to cover everything. Yeah, you know, he's just kind of hammering away. Keep in mind, the main and the natural are both about to drop patches at about the same time. That's going to be a huge reduction in the income overall. This is a critical moment when you're fighting the Terran, when they're suddenly on just one mining base. Storm drops, by the way, can be extremely powerful here. There will be a moment where about 95% of the SCVs in the game will be on 8 patches. And so, you know, 2 or 3 storm drops and, like, you have killed their entire economy. Not saying that's what's going to happen here, but you want to watch out for that.
There's a reason why the 4th base I keep bringing up here. For Terran, the general rule, unless you're against, like, carriers, the general rule is if you have 3-2 upgrades, you need 2 bases mining. And as long as you have 2 bases mining, there's a chance, you know? But 1 base, you just can't really get many units. You start running out of vultures and, like, you don't have any mobility on the map or anything. So I feel like that's really the main thing. Like, Ample is attacking here. I don't get it. I don't get it. There's never going to be a situation where 6 vultures and 2 tanks are going to kill a Nexus when Best has this much. I feel like put all of your eggs into the 4th base basket, because when you have those 3-2 upgrades, if you have those 2 mining bases, you can make a significant army. You know, like 2 bases, you can support 8 factories. You can do it if you're not getting anything else. And then that means that you can max out and stuff. But if he's out here like spending units nonstop and he's going to be sitting at 120 supply for the rest of the game, I don't see that as a winning formula.
You know, it's a funny thing, Artosis, like watching this game, I totally 100% agree with you. Like, when Terran's in this position, I don't even think you want to think about the other bases, especially on this map. This map is kind of like Heartbreak Ridge, where like there's not a lot of bases. So right now you worry about yourself. You treat this like it's a survival game. You're just trying to get a 4th base up, because trying to push out and kill those bases, by the way, we're at that moment here. Natural mined out, main is going to mine out in 2nd. You just got to get a 4th base up and then see where the game can take you from there, because right now, Protoss has, in theory, 1 more base that could be taken, which is in the top right.
That's right, and that's not that many bases. Like, you can fight 4 against 6. It's hard, but you can do it. But with this 1 base, what we're going to see with the lack of mining is the vultures are going to start drying up. And look at, he's doing this again, and he's like, okay, well, that's a 6 shot on the probes. He's definitely hurting Best's economy a little bit. But what I'm really worried about is he's never going to have like the critical mass to actually fight against Best.
Yeah, also, Protoss's 3 bases are going to mine out soon. That's really important to note here. Because, you know, eventually you're going to be having 1 to 2 more bases that have minerals that you're mining in. It's a lot easier when you have all these bases with minerals to just, you know, push out tons of units over and over and over. But that's going to slow down. Protoss right now at +2 attack, +1 armor. Terran should be at 3-3 by now, I think.
I think 3-2. 3-2. It's pretty rare that you actually get the +3 armor, honestly. Like, you stop thinking about it, and like in a game like this where your economy is low, you're just like, screw it, I don't need the 3 armor. It's really much more about those attack upgrades. But now there are these arbiters out for Best, which add this like other scary thing. We saw Ample laying down a lot of mines in his main base. He's a little bit nervous about a possible recall. And here comes that command center. I believe that might be his main command center, actually, that he's sending up, which is fine. But definitely we need to see him secure that new base. You can see how low his minerals are and how his supply just isn't shooting up like it used to. He can't support real production off of 1 base.
So I think it's time to try to edge into this 3 o'clock spot. And I think you really want to just stretch out. Get the tanks all, like, put them in a little area like that. I wouldn't even mind seeing kind of like what we saw from Mind with like a, hold on, Artosis. Are we going to have a stasis?
Oh, man. Gets that EMP, but it doesn't hit in time. The stasis goes off. Now, this is a very turtled little area. A lot of energy on this Arbiter as well. Freezes more back tanks. That front group of units not going to be able to hold on here, unfortunately. And Ample, you know, he's got some units back defensively still at his 3rd base. But this attack from Best is just right.
Dude, the square peg is just devastating the circle hole. Artosis, it is madness.
It is.
He just
It is.
forces it in there. He does not care.
Dude, you would have
He
thought
doesn't
that
care
Best.
if it ruins the toys for the other players. It's like, no, no, you're going to break the set. You got to try to figure out which shape goes in which hole. He doesn't care.
You would have thought that Best was taught not to play Protoss like this in kindergarten, but yeah, he is ruining the toys for the other players being Terran players. It is a rough situation here for Ample. That is it. Ample's been broken. There's
Over,
no way
man.
for him to get back to that army size that he had before. He just can't do
Next
it.
thing you know, man, Best is going to start coloring outside the lines, and that's going to be GG Artosis.
Yeah, for sure. More Zealots running in. He's got an Arbiter here that almost has enough for a recall at this point. Even some High Templars coming down with this army. It was a good fight from Ample, but just not enough. Best, dude, he like, the way he played this, like he... He's like attacking over bridges and attacking into tiny chokes. He just did not care, man. He just forced his way into a victory.
I enjoyed that game. I really did. And again, I think we got to go back to that early bust that Best did. The one where even the Reaver was killed, and he's like, no, it's fine. I can pass through these bridges. Like a few seconds before that, we're like, well, there's no way to really get across that, right? Like, you can't just make that work. And then he does it, and I'm like, okay, I get it. You are very good. All right, so be it. But, you know, Ample story, it's not over yet. He's going to go down to the final match. And that means up next, we've got the elimination match, Artosis. One of these two players is going to get knocked out of the ASL. But first, let's go to an interview with Best and see how he's feeling. He has moved on to the round of 16 of season 15 here of the ASL.
ASL 시즌 15 24강 시조 경기 함께하고 계십니다. 가장 먼저 16강에 안착한 선수는 프로토스 도재욱 선수입니다. 지금 바로 함께하시죠. 축하드립니다.
네, 감사합니다.
역시 16강의 명단에 도재욱 선수가 없으면 안 될 것 같습니다. 오늘 경기 역시 걱정이 무색하리 많지 기우였다라는 생각이 들 정도로 정말 깔끔한 경기력으로 16강에 다시 한번 올라서셨는데요. 소감을 좀 들어볼까요?
오늘은 정말 위기라고 생각을 했어요. 왜냐면은 정말 근래에 막 유리한 거 지고 지면 그냥 불리하면 지고 이래가지고 오늘도 힘들다고 생각했는데 오늘 다행히 약간 초반부터 격차를 벌려서 그걸 잘 잡은 것 같아요.
오늘 2명의 테란을 잡고 이렇게 빠르게 16강에 진출하셨습니다.
네.
도재욱 선수의 테란전 정말 시원하다.
네.
눈이 시원하다라는 평가들이 정말 많았는데요.
네네.
경기를 하면서는 좀 오늘 잘 풀린다는 느낌을 충분히 받으셨을까요?
오늘 레더에서 이제 손을 풀면서 이제 레더 경기를 했는데 거기서 동준이를 만났어요. 백동준을 만났는데 걔가 이제 뭐 오늘 잘할 수 있다고 이래가지고 제가 걔랑 해봤는데 그냥 제가 학살했어요. 그래가지고 너무 게임이 잘 되더라고요. 그래서
네.
오늘 되겠다 싶었어요. 네.
레더에서 또 힘을 경기 전에 받았군요.
네네.
박성균 선수와의 경기에서는 초반 다크 견제가 박성균 선수를 많이 흔들었습니다.
네네.
그리고 김태형 선수와의 경기에서는 초반에 김태형 선수가 흔들려는 벌처 시도나 드랍십 시도가 정말 도재욱 선수의 손에서 깔끔하게 막혔거든요.
네네.
모든 경기가 이후에 도재욱 선수의 그 특화된 플레이 물량이 쏟아지면서 경기가 좀 끝이 났는데 좀 즉흥적인 움직임이셨는지도 궁금해요.
네, 오늘은 사실 1경기만 준비하고 왔어요. 왜냐면 1경기 잡으면은 뭐 어떻게든 올라갈 수 있겠다는 생각이 있어서 1경기 준비하고 왔는데 그래서 2경기부터는 약간 좀 손이 가는 대로 했는데 그게 마침 좀 첫 벌쳐 들어왔을 때
네.
또 피해를 안 입었을 때 되겠다 싶었어요.
자원은 비록 그때 좀 캐지 못했지만
네네네.
잡히지 않은 것만으로도
네.
충분히 되겠다는 느낌을 받으셨군요.
네네네.
도재욱 선수가 시즌 11 이후에 계속해서 24강, 16강에 머물러 있습니다. 16강에 올라갔지만 사실 도재욱 선수의 위치는 그 이상을 바라보는 팬분들이 정말 많으시잖아요.
네네네.
도재욱 선수의 생각도 좀 들려주시죠.
이제는 어느 순간부터는 제가 약간 좀 우승 후보라는 말에서 좀 많이 멀어진 것 같아요. 현재로서는. 근데 뭐 오히려 그게 좀 더 편하기도 하고 제가 뭐 대회 때 더 못하긴 하지만 조금씩 연습하다 보면 좋은 결과가 나올 수도 있지 않을까 생각하고 일단 첫 목표가 16강이었는데 16강을 올라왔으니까 다음 목표 잡아서 더 열심히 하겠습니다.
도재욱 선수 걱정이 많아 보이지만 여전히 팬분들에게는 ASL 시즌 15의 강력한 프로토스 선수니까요. 16강에서도 멋진 모습 기대하겠습니다. 팬분들께도 한 말씀 전해주시죠.
오늘 조가 떴을 때 많은 팬분들이 걱정을 했어요. 요즘 다 폼이 너무 좋은 선수들이라서. 근데 이렇게 제가 또 16강 진출했으니까 이제 좀 마음 놓으셨으면 좋겠고, 그리고 오늘 정말 동료 BJ도 많이 와줬어요. 일단은 뭐 보면은 오뇨, 재현이, 그리고 하유리, 그 술돌이, 연두, 주하랑,
네.
두두, 한 명 누굴까요? 한 명 더
한
왔거든요.
명이라도 놓치지 않으려고 지금
네.
제 눈을.
잠깐만, 누구죠?
누구죠?
알잖아요. 몰라요.
누구죠?
아무튼 한 명 더 왔어요.
자리에서 기다리고
네.
계실 테니까.
그리고
꼭, 네.
그 전에 T1 같이 생활했던 명훈이가 와가지고 지나가다 약속 있어 왔다고 하더라고요. 그래서 와가지고 형 잘하니까 올라갈 수 있다고 했는데 참 다행이네요.
네. 또 마저 가서 감사의 인사를 전해주시고요. 멋진 모습 16강에서도 기대하겠습니다. 축하드립니다.
네, 감사합니다.
자, 이렇게 C조에서 가장 먼저 16강에 오른 도재욱 선수와 함께했습니다.
실성사이다 제로 그래 걱정 빼고 고민 빼고 망설임 빼고 This is zero life 없어도 되는 건 빼고 실성사이다 제로
상큼함 맥스 칼로리 X 맛있는 함 제로 요즘 제일 탐나는 제로 우리들의 제로 탐스 제로 같이 떠나볼래?
No matter what life throw at me, I'ma still grind. Put in work, got me feeling like it's my time. No matter what they say about me, I'ma
Welcome back, everyone. What a crazy match for the losers match here. It's going to be Soma versus Mind coming up next. It's kind of hard for me to believe that either of these guys would go out in the round of 24, but here we are.
Yeah. If Mind wins here, honestly, again, this is going to be a level of upset like Mini going out, maybe even more. Like Soma has been so strong for so many seasons now. But Mind is fearsome. Like, he's really, really good. I don't think he got his best game out there against Best, but as we just saw from Best, he, like, doesn't even care about, like, the theory behind the game or anything. He just is like, I make many units, you die now. So, that's always kind of been him, right? He's always been, like, the best or one of the best macro Protosses out there. But now going into this Terran versus Zerg, yeah, like, Soma has to put out like a very high quality game here against Mind because he's going to have this planned very well.
Yeah, this will be an interesting one. I mean, I feel like Soma is a shoe-in here. I feel like he should be able to take Mind on, but again, everybody's saying Mind is in great shape now. Let's see what he's got to offer.
All right. Looks like we are going into Dark Origin. Seems like that's just always going to be the map because 76 and Nemesis keep getting vetoed. But I like Dark Origin so far. These games are kind of interesting on it.
Yeah, it's been a fun map to cast games on, honestly. Actually, we're going to go right into this right now, guys. In this best of one of these two players is about to get knocked out of the ASL. And for the winner, they've got to go up against Best in that final match. It's going to be a tough day for both these players. And I said Best, I'm sorry, I meant Ample. I don't know what I'm talking about. Ample died. Sorry, everybody. Sorry.
Oh,
It's one of those moments, like, right when I said it, I wanted to, like, suck all the words back into my mouth, like... Anyways, yeah, the winner goes on to face off against Ample.
Yeah, Tasteless, I could tell that like if you had one of these little like time travel superpowers, we would all just think like, wow, Tasteless just never makes any mistakes. It's so crazy. It's because they only can use your power force to take back stupid shit you said.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, Tasteless, you could have gone back and killed Hitler, but instead you're just fixing the mistakes you made in your broadcast.
He's just the most flawless commentator ever.
That's right. So, I mean, you know, in this game, we've got to watch and see exactly how Mind's going to open up. Mind has kind of played fairly conservatively in the game that we did see of him. Obviously, ZVT is a very different matchup than you know, PVT here. One thing about Mind is he always knew how to basically get Terran set up to have an easy mid game and late game. That's one of my big takes from him when I'd watch it. As I go, oh wow, you really kind of know how to navigate this very cleanly to a position that's going to be really beneficial to you.
Sure.
But in the last couple of years of casting his games, I feel like it's quite the opposite of that. I feel like a lot of times he's in a very perilous mid game. Would you agree with that, Tastosis?
Yeah. Actually, I can see exactly what you mean by that. Like, if you don't have a super clean early game, you know, as Terran, you can be in these spots that are like, oh, this is really messy. You need a couple things to happen very well for you at this point. So, you know, maybe that's I think that is always a good way to look at the game. Like, if you can hurt a Terran player early on, if you can screw up something that they're doing, it's a little bit harder to get back on track, because you kind of, as Terran, it's like there's always all these benchmarks that you need to be hitting to make sure that you have potential to win the game.
Was Mind ever in a WCG? Am I correct about this?
He probably was. Like, I mean, he was a super top player back at that time, right? An MSL champion. He's like actually the real reason we never had a Protoss Bonjour, knocking Bisu out of that second MSL in a row.
Yeah.
To win that, and like, yeah, I mean, he was. There really was that time where it was a question: was Flash going to lead the Terran race, or was it going to be Mind? So I wouldn't be surprised if he was in. I don't remember specifically, because WCG was like, for us it was important, but I never really cared which Koreans were playing, you know? It's like, yeah, they'll get top 3, but who cares?
Yeah, I'm like, well, one of the Koreans that makes it in, they're going to win it, but like, I really want to see, you know, is NA better than EU? Stuff like that.
Yes, exactly.
But, you know, for those of us that were playing StarCraft 1 and following it long before StarCraft 2 was out, Mind was like a player that you knew about. He was a guy that you would be following. And it's crazy to see him still playing here now. But he hasn't quite hit those marks the way that Bisu has, or Flash has, or even at times Jadon has, you know. I mean, Mind was really up there with those players, but he does seem to be, I don't know, his play style, at least in ASLs, always seems to be a little bit more dusty, a little bit more crusty,
Yes.
Tastosis.
Yes, it always has seemed that way. Like, when we came back and like started doing a lot of his StarCraft casting with the edition of Remastered, like, he was one of the players I was excited to see, but he certainly hasn't been up to the task. But that's the thing. This group is so hard, so he might just get eliminated recently. But I honestly watch him a lot right now, because he really is putting out super high-level games against all the other top pros. And here's the this is a hard thing for me, Tasteless. Like, who do I root for here? Because I think the tournament is better with Soma in it. But for me personally, I'm like, well, I want to learn about Mind's build orders and his theory behind his moves. So, you know, I like kind of want him to win, but at the same time, like, ASL is much more interesting with Soma still alive, because he could win.
Certainly. That SCV got all the way into the main. It moved through those drones like it was Nightcrawler. And now it sees that this is 2-hatch Muta. I think Terran breathing a sigh of relief and now prepping for the next phase of the game. No ambiguity as far as what the Zerg is up to.
Yeah, he's going to have to get that engineering bay down right away at this point. And look at that third base! You kidding me? Look at where he took his third.
I almost choked on my water. Yeah, look at that. He's going all the way into the top right. That's not normal at all.
Yeah, so there's two things that this could be. This could be he wants to sneak lurkers in the back, or this could be like a Guardian rush. Those are the two times that you make bases kind of near the Terran, right? Like, one is to trick them with the close spawn, and the other one is I'm putting on so much pressure that you're not going to be able to come out and kill it.
So this is really interesting. Another thought, Artosis, I don't know if this could happen, but maybe a proxy defiler, is that a possibility? You know, there's that other ramp.
You would do that probably with the fourth hatch, I would imagine. But yeah, if you happen to get up to Defiler, the thing is, this is so close. This is such a weird position that I think you have to put heavy pressure on. Like, you have to just go like nonstop Muta. Normally, when I see bases like this, I immediately think Guardian. Like, because if you go non-stop Muta while teching up to Guardian quickly, that closer hatchery is going to help you, and Terran literally never has a timing where they can walk out. But if you start teching too heavily, if you're like, okay, now I'm going to get Lurkers and Defilers and +1 Carapace, then suddenly that's where Terran starts to gain map control, and it's like, how do you defend that now?
We've got the Mutas coming up here. They're going to try to just chip away at the depot. This is probably the only easy target, at least for now, to try to hit. As Terran's pretty buttoned up over here. There's not really a place to try to get in and do that much damage. Remember that if this is, like Artosis said, maybe a Guardian Rush, as long as you don't drop Mutas, you're basically fine with this. You know, the funny thing with Wallens too, like this, is although it keeps you safe from Lings, it does allow for Glaives to then transfer onto Marines. It's like this funny conundrum that Terran have to deal with. Protoss deal with it too, but I think Terran deals with it in a much more pronounced manner. Oh, and Terran's going to try to actually move out now.
Well, I don't know if he can really move out at the moment. Like, if you're spending every dime you have on Mutalisks, you are going to be able to kill this army as it comes out. 3 racks is not going to do it, and he's not got +1 yet. Yeah, look at the speed of that Hive, Tasteless. This is almost certainly going to be a Guardian Rush, which, by the way, they are very popular right now.
Well, I think Guardian Rush is probably really good, especially on a spot like this where you can put Guardians like right over where their natural is, and there's no real recourse for Terran. I mean, we don't even have a starport yet.
It's very true, and like, you kind of have to go into Valkyrie against this almost every single time. But a lot of times the Guardian Rushes are done with lots of Hydras as well. Now, honestly, I feel like Soma's not controlling his Mutas as well as I want to see him doing it. Like, it really feels like he's just slightly off on his micro here. His Mutas don't have as much damage as I thought they would. This is only 3 racks Marines. Like, it's on 4 racks where you're like, okay, I have to be careful. With 3 racks, well, he has 4 now, but it was a 3 racks opener, right? Like, you should be able to reduce them a little bit better, I feel like, than what we're seeing so far.
All right, he does clean up a decent amount of those Marines. Feels like this is the longest Hive build time ever, but
I know.
It's eventually going to be done. We're going to see that Greater Spire come down, unless there's a real plot twist here in the tech that we're going to be anticipating. But he is keeping the Terran kind of whittled down, slowed down here. The Greater Spire does start. And do we have any Valkyries being made here? Has the Terran scanned the main and confirmed the Greater Spire?
I don't know that he has, but yeah, he has the armory already, so he should be all right. I think I saw just 1 starport for now, but as soon as he gets a Valkyrie out, he can really start to push onto the map a bit better. Right now, like, look at this. The bridges, it's hard to get across there with Bio as well. Okay, he sees that Greater Spire for sure. And right now, it's like, okay, we have to retain the Marines, we have to get some Valkyries out, and we have to actually get out on the map, because you can't just let him morph the Guardians. You have to put pressure on and try to prevent that, to slow that down as much as possible.
Second starport coming here. Terran still getting whittled down just a little bit here. When you're Terran, by the way, are you your eyebrows raised that there's no Lurkers yet? I mean, is this a dead giveaway? Is this obvious?
Yeah, it's super obvious to him exactly what's going on. Like, especially when you scan it. Like, if you see the speed of the Hive, it'll normally tell you that it's a Guardian Rush. And here he goes. He's morphing 3 Guardians. But honestly, Tastosis, I don't feel like Soma's playing that well this game. A lot of pros are very into this build right now. Like, I've seen Zealot do it a lot of times. And I feel like he's been executing it better than what we see here. Like, these Mutas, the Muta count is not that high. Like, the Guardians are fast, but are these as fast as he could get them? And look at this. Mind is coming over the bridge. There's only 3 Guardians ready.
Yeah, there's going to be 3 more in a second here. Hydras here with speed. It looks like he's going to intercept some of these Hydras. They're going to try to come down here and reinforce. There are Scourge out in the mix. The Guardians are starting to shell these Marines that have to retreat. Oh, this is such a cool combination. It's so crazy to see all these different unit comps in StarCraft, man. Terran's going to run up into where this proxied expansion is, and there's going to have to be a fight down here.
Oh man, he's killing a lot of the drones. That's hard to get back. Like, Soma's build is an all-in. I know it's on 3 bases, but it has to work. If Mind is killing all your drones off, if he kills this group of units, I think the game basically goes to him. You know, like, look at this. The Guardian's taking a lot of damage. Mind is having to retreat, so maybe Soma can just pick this all off.
Yeah, you know, the thing is the Valkyries are staying alive. I do feel like we need to have these Hydras target that down. Oh, can he get that one?
Oof, a Wraith in there too for whatever reason. The Valkyrie gets picked off. Okay, getting a little bit sloppy here now. The damaged Valks come down. One of them gets picked off immediately. A lot of bios start to fall. He is trying to pick off the Guardians. And I mean, I guess every unit he kills here is good because he killed all the drones at the 3rd base, so the economy is very weak for Soma. But it looks like there is a switch into Wraiths from Valkyries here. But there's a lot of Overlords ready.
This is one of the things, you know, when you play one race, like I'm just grinding Protoss on ladder, and then I see this, I'm like, what the hell happened to this matchup? What did you What did you Zergs do? This is insane.
I know exactly. Because I play against this all the time, Tastosis. It's like a crazy build. Like, you have to just kill the entire army once, right? That's what you're aiming for. As soon as you kill the entire Zerg army one time, you win the game. But if you can't do that, you see this is getting scarier and scarier. He's starting to get a real amount of Guardians here.
It's funny how the Hydras kind of changed the properties of the Zerg army in a way where, like, you know, Hydras are generally considered absolutely awful against Marines, but I guess paired with Guardians, the damage distribution isn't so bad.
Yeah. Well, you're targeting down their anti-air, and here Mind goes forward, and I think he's done it, Tasteless. We're going to have another upset. Like, I mean, once you lose that much of your army, there's no coming back. Terran's going to get a couple rounds, and they're going to just have that critical mass. They have upgrades where you don't. It's like 0/0 Hydras and +1 Carapace Mutas against 2 Starport, 5 Racks, 1/1 Marines. This is the perfect situation for Mind.
This is an insane game, by the way. I mean, the justice served, by the way, is Terran's probably going to win this game as this crazy scumbag Zerg style of Guardian Hydra is going to get shut down. Keep in mind that when the Zerg loses this base, I mean, that's 1/3 of their production gone and 1/3 of their economy gone. See, I for a second thought it was going to be Hydras coming up. They would turn into Lurkers and cover the Guardians, but I guess what you really want to do is just almost like overmake Guardians, and then the Hydras can basically cover to fight the Valkyries. Is that correct?
Exactly. That's the whole thing. Is like you have enough Guardians that the Marines can't really kill them, so Terran needs air units, and that's where it's like the air units don't do anything against the Hydralists. Sorry. But look at this. I can't believe that Soma actually, I didn't even realize that this was occurring. He's gotten into Lurkers and Defilers. How did he do that?
Yeah, all behind the Guardian tech. Now, there's some Lurkers coming back down. It seems almost like Mind has kind of ran around here, and he's now on the loose. He doesn't know for sure if there's no Lurker here in the natural, but there's in fact no Lurker in the natural. Lurker's going to come down. He does snipe them. He does split, and he does kill 3.
Dude, 32 supply for Soma. There's really, truly nothing left. GG is called, and Soma, another huge upset in the ASL round of 15. Honestly, Tasteless, I don't feel like Soma was playing particularly well tonight. Remember, his Mutalisk engagement on those Goliaths didn't go well against Ample, and that really put him back. In this game, it didn't feel like his Mutalisk harassment was well done. Like, he didn't really get any damage. He wasn't reducing the Marine count. And now Soma is out. This is the earliest he's gone out of ASL, maybe ever.
I mean, the upsets continue to happen here, Tastosis. Soma out first? What?
Crazy.
After all the years of this guy being a star of the ASL, he's already out on the 3rd day of the show? I can't believe it.
It truly is unbelievable, some of the players that we are losing early on here. It shows you just how competitive Brood War is in Korea at the moment. But that means that we have a Terran versus Terran to finish off. Ample going up against Mind.
We're going to close it out with a TVT. Should be a good one. We're going to have a tiny little break. When we come back, we're going to go to that last match. We will see you there.
Coming up hot for a minute.
자, 이거까지! 골 다 날아갔다는 얘기입니다, 이러면은. 가도 시간이 오래 걸리고, 막아내도 결국 프로토스가 이득을 보는 싸움입니다. 캐리어를 막을 수가 없어요. 시즌! 5점째 득부에서 한 번도 안 들었던 이영호 선수를 엄청나게 뻔뻔하게 지금 대문 앞에다가 대문 앞에다가 막을 수 있는 자 빌드인데 이게 왜 이거냐 걸리버 걸어가리는 자 S15 벙커를 깨면은 자 벙커 깼어요. 벙커 이제 시작입니다. 걸어가는 S15를 못 깨면 S15를 못 깹니다.
데이터에서 차이가 좀 많이 벌어진 상황이고 박상윤 선수는 자신감 넘치게 장윤철 선수 지목했어요. 자, 그래 한방 좀 앞에 들어갈 수 있나요?
네, 드라군의 맷집과 스톰의 적절한 사용 이걸로 지금은
또 위쪽으로 러커준 도기가 배치가 돼
자
있어요.
스톰 적절한데 한방
자, 두 방.
플레이 제일 잘하던 선수가 김명훈이었는데 와 여기에서는 놓쳤고요. 선수는 진짜 기가 막힌데요. 장윤철 와 장윤철
야야야야.
야 이거를
재물 1순위로 예상했던 장윤철 선수가요. 조 1위로 올라갔습니다. 자, 러커 좀 3개인데 위로 들어가서 여기서 이제 버로우. 자, 이 병력을 좀 막아내야 되는데. 애초리. 자원줄. 이거 다 잡나요? 파이어맨. 야, 이거 러커 잡아요.
러커까지 지금 파이어맨의 위력으로
뭐 벌릴까요? 러커 많지 않냐? 네. 자, 여기서 러커. 야, 러커를 그냥 무시하는데요?
확장의 공격당해도 뼈 아픈데 이 지역은 좀 많이 아픈데요. 리버 두기가 있었거든요. 여기 리버 두기가 있었습니다.
자, 위에 러커. 지금 들어보니 이번 교전.
네.
자, 러커들이 좀 셔틀로.
네. 내리는 병력 양에 비해서 이게 리버가 있고 병력이
정리돼요?
네, 커세어가 봤기 때문에 이거 되게 잘 막은 거죠.
이거는 아칸도 있었거든요. 리버 컨트롤이 가능했고.
네.
자, 이거 좀 막아냈어요.
예, 그 추가되는 병력뿐만 아니라 나머지 병력으로 모두 다 지금은 제거를 하게 되면은
추가 병력 올라옵니다.
근데 생각보다 러커 3기가 좀 오래 살아남으면서 이곳으로 병력 보내는데 사실 맞고 나서 여기 리버까지 있었어야 되거든요. 자, 김윤중 선수가 제일 깰만한 시기거든요.
자, 시작됐습니다. 물량 늘리기.
네, 해처리는 많이 늘어나 있습니다만 하이브테크는 늦는 이런 체제에서 옵저버 있겠다, 리버 있겠다, 하이템플러 있겠다, 맷집, 드라운 있겠다. 정면에서 붙었을 때는 답을
네.
못 낼 수준이죠.
근데 리버 도기가 좀 받쳐주고 있기 때문에 저희들이 달려들지 못하고 있습니다.
그때 병력 변신이 거의 없습니다.
그렇죠.
네,
물량.
없어요.
예, 인구수가 더 늘었어요.
네, 정말 히드라 기반의 저그의 병력을 상대를 하는 가장 최고급 병력의 모으기거든요.
이거는 히드라를 다수 뽑아서
네.
병력이 많지 않은 그 타이밍을 한번 노리는 것 같은데요.
그렇죠. 히드라 스댄이 빨리 올라가는 경우는 테라리 테크가 빠를 것이다. 뭐 이런 건데.
게다가 위치가 한시인 만큼 배럭에서 병력이 밑으로 나오거든요.
예.
배럭을 들 수가 없어요.
그래서 땡들어 땡들어.
야 이게 뭐죠? 땡이들아 놀랐어요. 이영호 놀랐어요. 이게 설마 히드라로 정말 대단하네요. 이런 전략을 선택할 수 있다는 것과
그렇죠. 어깨를 1998.
네.
이죠. 나이스미가 일할 때가 아니거든요.
SCB가 앞마당은 일을 못해요. 결국은 비를 걷고 완성시켰는데 못
하지만 여기 스쿼지가 더 많다라는 것이 자 지금 스쿼지 활용해서 싸워야죠 김민철.
들어가서
와 이런 스쿼지 피해도 그냥 아래로 그냥 꽂아버렸어요 뮤타를.
지금 노리고 있어요. 찍었어요.
예, 스커지가 우선적으로 이렇게 찍은 상태에서 상대방에게 컨트롤을 강요할 수 있거든요.
네.
그러면서 퇴각하는 상대 스커지 잡아먹고
빈틈을 좀 만들어내야 되는데요.
예, 기습이 우선적으로
네,
됐어야 되는데
와우.
기습이 되질 않았습니다.
와 이거 저걸리
이건 거의
있어요.
전멸했고요.
네.
지금 뮤탈 싸움입니다. 소모전만에 6기대.
오.
많아요.
차이가.
뮤탈 폭군.
Hello, everyone. We are back and we are ready to go into our final match here for Group C in day 3 of the ASL. It's been a crazy day so far. I can't believe Soma's out. It blows me away.
Yeah, it's such a huge upset. Like, I can't believe that in 3 groups already we have this many upsets going on with, like, literally people that make it to the finals and the top 4 over and over and over. They're out of the tournament. And that leaves one of these guys that we don't see in ASL as often, and especially don't see deep in ASL. One of them is going to be moving on. We're going to be playing a Terran versus Terran, Ample versus Mind on Vermeer. Really, anything could happen here. There's just such a wide range of openers in Terran versus Terran. We really have to take a look at what those are going to be before we can really figure out who's going to have the edge.
You know, we have not had a day where it's just what you'd expect. Every day of ASL has been a surprise. I wonder how long this is going to continue on. We could have a very different looking round of 8 by the time we get close to the end of this tournament, Tastosis.
Yeah. I'm trying to imagine a round of 8 that's like, well, if you look at our player roster, we definitely have a lot of players that are not in the tournament as regularly, these 2 being chief amongst them. But, like, imagine someone like Ample in a round of 8. That would be a huge surprise.
All right, we're ready to get this going. The final match in Group C to decide who moves on and who's knocked out, in this ASL. Let's do this.
So in the bottom left, we have Ample. And in the top right, we have Mine. So cross spawns. Very important to note that longer position, if you do any sort of very fast expansion, it's going to be a bit better.
And this could be an epic one, Tastosis. I mean, it really could be. For a map that's this big and with this many bases and cross spawns, I'm excited for this. I would not mind a good long TVT.
Yeah, we definitely could get a long, like, really good, drawn-out Terran versus Terran. I think Mind would be probably favored in that case. But Ample is not, like, bad TVT or anything like that. I think a lot of this right now comes down to how they want to go about it, right? We already see that there's not going to be any proxy barracks. So if anyone decides to go, like, for a very fast command center, whether it's command center first or a gasless expansion, they are going to have the advantage.
Now, when you're in these spawns, Tastosis, is there like one direction it seems like each side would organically expand? Like, is this going to look more like top versus bottom, or east versus west?
Well, generally you'll take your quadrant first, the 4-base quadrant, and then it'll kind of just matter the way that both of you start like laying mines and sieging up. That'll kind of dictate the way in which you expand, because the map will naturally get cut in half in one direction or the other, and you'll just expand. You know, once you have 4 bases in Terran versus Terran, it's like there's some finesse getting into 4 bases correctly without getting yourself like contained or busted. But after that, the amount of money you have coming in, you're basically like always maxed, and you can just build command centers. Like it's, you know how late game, like you'll see like Maru in StarCraft 2, he'll just be like, okay, and he throws out 3 commands. That's what can happen late game Terran versus Terran after 4 bases. Where you're just like, yeah, I don't know, I'll expand 3 times right now.
Well, you know, the core units that you want in the matchup are all called all-cost gas, with the exception of the vultures, which you need in mass at the start of the game. But yeah, when the game gets really developed and you're starting to get close to maxing out, you do end up with this excess of minerals. So it's like, well, I might as well make more command centers to then mine more gas other places.
Exactly. And like, the more bases you have, the better spread you have. You can fit more production. It's like more places that your opponent has to try to attack to get rid of. And I mean, that's where the game gets incredibly crazy. You know, eventually you can definitely get into these positions where you each have like 6-7 bases and enough turrets and a decent tank spread, and then that's where the game can really slow down. That I think a lot of people, that's where they get their negativity from TVT, where you get into a position like that where no one can really break each other. It's like, I don't know, do we go battle cruisers? Do I make 12 dropships? Like, how do we want to go about this?
Now, we had the barracks made in the middle of the map. If you watch a lot of StarCraft, you might look at that and think this is some kind of a rush. In this case, it's actually not. Usually, you know, if you can poke in if they're going to go command center first, maybe do some damage. And I was going to say that normally you use the barracks to go scout them and just see what their tech is and try to play the game from there. But interestingly, Ample actually sends his back, which totally confuses me. Oh, no, hold on. He sent the barracks back out.
I think that was a mistake. He probably had it on a hotkey and accidentally brought it back when he was meaning to bring back a Marine or something like that. Because it's like 99% of the time it's correct to just send it across. And when you build it in the center, like he would be almost there right now if he hadn't turned it around. So definitely a big mistake from him on that, and that's a frustrating one. You can actually see some frustration in his face right now, because a lot of times you'll do builds in Terran vs. Terran where you just really want that barracks in there to see. It's like, basically early game TVT, you need to know if they're going Wraith or they're going Vulture. It's generally one or the other.
I'm relieved to hear that was a mistake. I was trying so hard to, racking my brain. I'm like, why would he send it back? Like, he doesn't want to land it and make Marines. That's not a thing. So a misclick like that, that's really going to hurt him, because that's the big convenience of that, is once you scout them with the Marines, it's like getting a big, beefy overlord that you get to go into their base with and just see what they're doing.
Exactly. Now, both sides are going for 3-factory Vulture. Now, there's a few different ways that this can go. Like, someone can start adding additional factories and cutting SCVs, or you can both just kind of take it as like, okay, we'll lay mines on kind of our side of the map and just chill and go into siege tanks. But that's really what we're looking at right now, is anyone going to add that 4th factory? And Mind is not. Mind makes the armory, and that can be a little bit of a hedging maneuver since he doesn't know what tech his opponent has. If you go 3-factory Vulture and your opponent goes Wraith and you didn't make that armory, you are in so much trouble. You're going to lose a ton of SCVs.
So the Vulture arms race begins here. So we're going to have more and more of them accumulated throughout this game. What are you looking for in this moment? In some ways, you're both kind of doing the same thing. Oh, wow, he actually slips out there. That's huge. I think he saw one Vulture. Sometimes when you see one, you kind of know that they're all there. But, I mean, what is the best way to go about playing this when you're both kind of in this position and you're sort of doing the same thing at the same time?
Yeah, it's kind of a stylistic thing and a little bit of a gamble thing. This is, you know, some players, some pro gamers like to avoid Vulture Wars because this is where it gets a little bit insane. where, like I mentioned before, like let's say that Ample just starts cutting SCVs and puts down another factory. Well, then it's 4 factory against 3 factory, and he will have more vultures and he will have a big advantage. But wait a minute, what if Mind cuts his SCVs and goes 5 factories? Well, then he's ahead. And it's like, okay, but what if you think your opponent's going 4 and you go up to 4 or 5, but he actually went into tanks? Then it's like, okay, well, your economy is a little bit weaker. Maybe you have map control, but how do you utilize that now? There's so much play in all of these positions that there, honestly, Tastosis, there's not a right move. There's all sorts of moves you can do, and depending on the move you're doing and the move your opponent is doing, there are proper and improper follow-ups.
Well, it does seem like Mind's plan is basically to hide 3 vultures, wait for Ample to push out, and then run those 3 vultures into the natural expansion. 3 vultures can one-shot an SCV, so you're going to kill off a lot of workers there. Mind has actually made his first tank. I didn't see if Ample has a tank or not. He does not have a tank yet. It's very deliberate that the tank is in the front like that, or I guess it was till these vultures came out, because the vultures, it takes so long for vultures to kill a tank that by the time the tank has soaked up 1 to 2 rounds of volleys, like you've already won the fight because your vultures will then kill them off.
Totally the case. It's like, it's such an important aspect. If your tank is behind your vultures, you actually just lose the game because your vultures will die so quickly.
Yeah.
And then all you have left is a tank, and it's like, well, that doesn't do anything. But right now, a Wraith is coming out for Ample. He did go for that 3 factory into Wraith, which is an okay build, but there's already an armory out from Mine, so it's not like he's afraid. He will lose that barracks, most likely. And Ample is going to have map control with all these vultures. He made more vultures than Mine. So you have to utilize this map control somewhat, but you can see Mind kind of moving into a forward position. I don't think he's going to try to attack or anything. That would be a very inappropriate move here. This is more of a spot where you try to keep the vultures far enough away that you don't have to clear mines on your side, and then just take an additional base.
So we've got the 3rd command center on the way. I think Ample's making his as well, but we did see it for Mind. As this game is kind of sizing up to be one where they can't really engage with each other for the time being.
Yeah, there can't be too much. It's like Mind is staying defensive enough. Ample is running around with vultures, but obviously can't fight against vulture tank Goliath. Ample, I believe, is getting a drop ship, so that's going to be his opportunity to maybe gain a bit of an advantage this game, because right now no one's advantaged. Like, again, it's like kind of stylistic. Some people would like to, if you like to ask 10 Terran players, 5 of them might like to have the additional vultures and control, and the other 5 might like to have the additional siege tanks for a longer term play, right? Like there's no right thing. But look at that vulture seeing the dropship. That's huge.
That is such a big deal. He's still going to send the dropship northbound over here. Going to see what he can't find and maybe try to kill some SCVs regardless. We have some of the vultures of Mine headed back right now as he wants to try to get in here in time to really shut down the effectiveness of that drop. And he's going to come in here anyways. I'm kind of surprised he's still going to commit to this.
Yeah, he can't now. Like, I think when he flies over the vulture, you just are like, oh, I hope he didn't see that, you know? But he did see it, so the dropship's just going to back up, run away. I think that's definitely the right choice. Mind making some of his own wraiths now. That's a pretty common thing at the pro level, where like your opponent makes wraiths, so you're like, well, I'll make a little bit more wraiths than him. So we might see a little bit of an air arms race, but the game is very, very close right now. They both have played, like, I think if you look at this theoretically, this is a great game to learn from. Like, these are both like common openers with common follow-ups. They're making a lot of the right moves. You see just a little tiny bit of scuffling, but nothing too much. And you see like how they're trying to solve some of these problems, right? Like Mind is running out. He's trying to push some mines back. He's put some of his own mines there in the middle. He's trying to make sure that that map control that Ample gained can't really be abused right now.
Does seem like Ample has the slightest supply advantage, but this really doesn't factor into much for this game as it goes on here. Did Ample start his upgrades later, though? Oh, no, I must be totally mistaken. Oh, no, there's an armory at the very, very top right. That's kind of covered up by the supply box there.
Yeah, I don't know exactly where the upgrades are at. Like, obviously, you want to get +2 as quickly as possible. I don't think either side has +1 quite yet. And yeah, Ample does have a little bit of a supply advantage. It's mostly in Vultures, so that's like just a unit that doesn't scale as well. You're not too worried. It's more about like what your siege tank counts are and your SCV counts are. But here the Vulture drop comes down. It actually does okay. He's going to lose the dropship. But like killing this many SCVs right there, it's not. These are not like game-ending things happening on either side. You take a little bit of economical damage. Obviously, you'd prefer not to, but your economies are pretty big. You can refill those SCVs relatively easily.
We're going to have an engagement here in the middle of the map. You always want to try to get some value out of these Vultures if you can. And there's so much over here from Ample. He's going to be able to lay mines right on top of these tanks as this is just getting steamrolled. There is a position to the bottom right side of the screen here that Mind can still rely on. This high ground area with the stairs. Ample has to be very careful to not overextend here.
He really does. At first, that went really well, and then he lost a few extra tanks there at the end. You got to be careful here. If you are throwing away tanks or you're losing too many in these busts, your position becomes a lot weaker and your opponent can start to take even more control. But as is, both sides are taking their fourth bases right around the same time. The supply is still pretty similar. You can see with a lot of those Vultures dying, Ample's supply has fallen down closer to Mind's at this point. And Mind has, like, I think that Mind's line is very good right now. Like, he's got the high ground right in front of his fourth. He's got the high ground in front of his third. So his quadrant of the map is sealed up pretty tight. And you can't really set a full containment around that. It takes too much supply.
Yeah, we're having some roaming here from Ample. It's important to note that Mind has both of the stair areas. This one that we have over here, and then one that's right at the, if you look at the 12 o'clock spot on the map and go to the top and just look down a little bit, you'll see that he has the tanks over there. So it's a very different approach. Mind a little bit more rigid in his position, but probably more sturdy, where Ample is a bit more fluid and, you know, might have some more options at his disposal because of that.
Actually, you basically summed it up perfectly, Tastosis. You've really learned a lot about TVT through the last few seasons.
I've had to cast a bunch with you, man.
Yeah, no, that's exactly correct. It's like Mind is very stable, and then Ample's like, okay, but we can roam because we don't have to be defensive. So, like, maybe he can find a point. You can see he's gathered his entire army together, whereas Mind is split. So Mind does have to be careful. He needs to reinforce any areas that might be attacked. You can see that group of tanks that's right behind. And Ample just keeps running back and forth. And if he finds a good spot, he can bust. But if he tries a bust and it doesn't work right, Mind is going to get way ahead.
Now, nobody's claimed the bottom right or the top left. And it really could go to either player. But one thing to note is that if either player can take one of the other starting locations and just deny the opponent their other starting location, or the other, the exact, like, in other words, if someone takes top left and can deny the bottom right for a little bit, whoever takes top left wins, basically. We're going to get to that late game coming up here.
Now, the Mind goes through with a bust. Ample is up one base right now, or, well, Mind is taking his fifth, but Ample does have, like, that little tempo advantage from being just so active on the map. Now, this is a huge attack coming in. Ample's attack is more Vulture heavy, whereas Mind's attack has more tanks in it, I think. So this is kind of crazy. They're both dealing a lot of damage to each other.
Yeah, we've got tanks spinning out. This is kind of crazy. They basically gone around each other and are now hitting both of each other's really important bases here. 12 o'clock is getting dislodged. It looks like Mind are actually able to basically hit two locations at once right now. This is getting very bad here for Ample.
Yeah, the two location versus one location hit is a gigantic difference, although it looks like Ample may be able to save that base there. And Mind's units are pretty darn far forward into Ample's third base. So I think if Ample just does a couple macro rounds, he should be able to just go up and clear this. In fact, brings a Wraith over, and there's no Goliaths here, so he's putting a clock on those tanks.
Yeah, over time, that Wraith will kill those tanks. It does take a comically long amount of time for a Wraith to wipe out a group of tanks, but if there's no answer to this, eventually all these tanks do fall. Ooh, great D-Matrix there from Mind. Such good control. He's going to wipe out all those tanks and not lose any tanks.
Dude, that's insane. Like, Defense Matrix can make such a difference in these attacks. that could have been like an equal trade, and in fact, it was totally one-sided for Mind. Now, Mind is going to be able to retake his 12 o'clock base, so he's going to be back up to 5. Whereas Ample, he's on 4 only. Like, this Wraith is going to kill those tanks eventually, but he's losing a lot of time on that.
Okay, we've got more vultures and tanks coming down. You can see this is getting kind of crazy here from Mind. I mean, he's really playing out of his mind, no pun intended there. He's going to be able to plant mines over here. This will take out both of the tanks. And, you know, all you need is a couple of units to get in here to force his command center to lift. And pretty soon here, it's going to be 5 bases to 3 Artosis.
Yeah, it's getting very bad for Ample. He does have this little group of drop ships, but you can see he's like dropping Vulture Tank. When you start dropping Vulture Tank out to try to clear attacks on your bases, that's like some desperation plays. Like, dropships can be used defensively, but you really want to put pressure on your opponent with them. So Ample is honestly falling apart right now. He doesn't have too much left going on. Never retook that 3rd base. Continually is taking damage over at 9 o'clock. Here he is. He's trying to back up. Mind putting pressure on all over the place. And Mind right now is getting ready to just take a bunch of bases.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty wild, man. You know, I like what you were pointing out there earlier, Artosis, that like when you see vultures and tanks being dropped onto tanks, like something is not going right. Like, you know, most of the time to kill a tank off in siege mode, you need to figure out some way either to rush in front of it or drop on top of it. But, you know, vultures do such a hilariously low amount of damage to tanks. They can get right on top of them, and then it's like, well, now what? I mean, how many minutes is this going to take to kill this thing?
Yeah.
We're seeing it again over here.
Yeah. Oh, man. Like, Mind is finishing him off right now, honestly. Like, this reinforcement to make sure this base goes down, I don't know that you can save this anymore as Ample. It's just like, Mind just keeps on coming in and busting every tank that gets in there. The dropships even taking damage from these Goliaths now. Mind is sitting here. I mean, he's mining very clearly off of those 5 bases. Ample retakes his 3rd base, so like his economy's okay, but he's under attack. He's down 50 supply, and his army still has so many vultures in it, which like they're still good, but the longer you get into the game, the more you want to have other higher quality units. You can see how it's more Goliath tank at this point for Mind because his economy can support it.
Yeah, at this point in time, he's just getting grinded down, man. It's so brutal. And you can see the counterattacks here from Ample. I mean, it's all he could probably do, but it's so feeble. They're getting cleaned up pretty easily. And this 3-base Terran to the 5-base Terran, you know, it's so difficult mathematically to ever recover. A lot of TVT, unless you have like a perfect engage, like we saw with the defense matrix on the tank, where he like wiped out everything and I think only lost like a vulture or a Goliath. Yeah. A lot of it is trying to kind of trade in these really ugly fights. These down and dirty, like tanks run up to each other and sieging up. But it seems like in this game, Mind can probably start to trade out. He can trade ugly over and over, Artosis, basically be ahead.
You can trade ugly? I've never heard that
trade ugly in TVT. Here it is.
Yeah, he definitely could, but he's actually using defense matrices, so he's actually trading pretty handsome, I would say. Yeah. I like the idea, though. That's what Best did against Ample, man. He traded ugly.
Traded ugly, man. We should make this a term now, just because it is like a thing where you get far ahead enough, but it's like, well, I don't have to be perfect in these fights because I'm going to win anyways and still be a little bit ahead.
Yeah, it's right. It reminds me of like how Dark plays in StarCraft 2.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, well, I just have such a big economy. Let's just go.
Yeah, let's trade ugly. Now, there's going to be more tanks coming up over here. And, you know, this is that idea, right? Like, this seems like it would be a foolish move to try to push into this location. But this is 128 supply to 177.
Yeah. One thing to just keep in mind, now Ample somehow has the command center going up in the bottom right. I don't know how that happened because Mind actually had like something down there. But if Mind trades too ugly here, like let's say he throws away like 12, maybe more than 12. Let's say he throws away like a group and a half of tanks. Ample might be able to like just kind of stabilize, you know, and if you stabilize and you kind of take like a corner, you don't have to have as much supply as your opponent to hold on. You just have to have a critical mass of siege tanks.
Yeah, this is he may be trading too ugly here for a little bit if he's not doing it right. How ugly can you go? Swamp Donkey, Sewer Mermaid? I mean, what are we talking about?
That's trading hideous, Tasteless. There's a difference between hideous and ugly. But, you know, I think Mind is still doing a good enough job, right? He's started to set up these siege locations, and this is actually better at this point than busting. When you get this far ahead, if you just start setting up these difficult siege locations and you have a bunch of drop ships, and you kind of mirror your opponent's dropship usage. Oh god, he actually lost his command center that was building over here. So good stop there by Mind. Really, Ample, we're like right at the end of the game right now. He absolutely needs to get another main base, or he's done.
Yeah, he's doing another big drop on top of these tanks while the rush comes in to clean it up. This is going to allow Mind to control the stairs over here in the bottom center. This is a really important position because this gives him a foothold to attack the fourth base down at 6 o'clock. Goliath's coming forward, mowing down the tanks, the mines, the vultures. It doesn't matter. And now he has access to that position.
Well, he's going to get down here with his Goliaths, kill off a bunch of SCVs. Ample, I mean, obviously you can't fight against 3-3 mech with SCVs. He drops off a few more units, loses those dropships though, and we'll see GG here. There it is. Yeah, that was a really nice game. The early mid game was really quite even. In fact, some people, like I said, would prefer Ample's position of being more active on the map. He did have his fifth base up a little bit quicker, but Mind's one big push that killed one base and really hurt another compared to Ample's counter push that really only hurt one base. That is where Mind took control of this game.
It was a great TVT, honestly. And I like that it started out with kind of standard approaches on both sides. You know, we have some games that you can really learn a lot from, and then we got ones like the one where Bisu was fighting an SCV rush, and it's like, I don't know, man. Like, you know, this isn't going to, you can't really build this into your play and have the same kind of results. But that was a really good educational TVT. If you're a student of the race, that's definitely one you want to go back and look over. Great plays by Mind. And, you know, very cool, man. Mind wins. He moves on. I'm very interested in seeing just how far he can go.
You know, I think there is a possibility for him to hit round of 8. I don't see Mind as a winner this season, but he's playing very, very well, and I think he wasn't even able to show everything he can do in today's games. I'm looking forward to his round of 16 group.
All right, guys, we've got that interview with Mind now.
ASL 시즌 15 24강 시조 경기 모두 함께 하셨습니다. 오늘의 마지막 16강 진출자 3년 만에 돌아온 노피의 박성균 선수입니다. 지금 바로 함께 하시죠. 축하드립니다.
네, 감사합니다.
3년의 공백이 모두에게 전혀 느껴지지 않을 정도의 오늘 정말 좋은 경기력이었습니다. 최종전 끝에 다시 한번 조지명식에 갈 수 있게 되셨는데요. 소감을 좀 들어보고 싶어요. 남다르실 것 같거든요.
일단은 되게 오랜만이라 좀 많이 긴장할 줄 알았는데 그렇게 많이 긴장은 안 하더라고요. 그래서 게임 뭐 잘 되겠다 싶었는데 솔직히 좀 너무 이제 쉽지 않다 생각했어요. 첫 맵이 단장의 능선인데 제가 너무 어려워서 이게 쉽지 않아서 아마 올라가면은 최종전으로 갈지 않을까 싶었는데 어떻게 딱 최종전으로 올라가게 됐네요. 네.
패자전에서 박상현 선수를 꺾고 최종전에서 김태형 선수와의 태태전 끝에 16강에 진출하셨는데 박성현 선수가 대기실에서 계속해서 좀 생각을 많이 하시는 모습을 제가 좀 봤거든요. 혹시 어떤 생각을 좀 하고 계셨는지, 빌드 생각이셨을지 좀 궁금하더라고요.
아무래도 빌드 생각했고요. 사실 연습을 하면서 계속 말려서 이게 오늘까지도 고민을 했어요. 뭘 할까 이제 계속 고민하느라고 좀 많이 머리가 아팠던 것 같아요.
최종전에서 김태형 선수와의 태태전은 좀 예상하기 쉽지 않았을 것 같은데 태태전에 대한 준비는 좀 어떻게 하셨을까요?
일단 태태전은 가장 적게 하긴 했고요. 일단 1경기랑 또 저구전 연습하느라 태태전 많이 못했는데 그래도
이제 사태랑 하면 최종전 안 할 줄 알고 사실 최종전 맵은 연습을 안 하고 승자 패자만 좀 몇 게임 했는데 뭐 기본적으로 하던 맵이라 그냥 제가 뭐 잘할 수 있었던 것 같아요. 네.
중계진 분들도 그렇고 역시 경험이 녹아든 정말 짜임새 있고 침착한 경기 운영이었다라는 평가들이 좀 줄을 이뤘는데요. 특히 이 센터 쪽에서 소규모 교전이 있을 때마다 계속해서 박성균 선수가 위치 선정이나 계속해서 이기는 교전들을 해 나가시더라고요.
네.
즉흥적인 움직임이셨을까요?
예, 아무래도 그냥 원래 하던 식으로 게임을 했는데 사태가 뭔가 좀 공격적으로 하더라고요. 그래서 그것만 좀 잘 맞춰가면 되겠다 싶었는데 그게 생각대로 잘 된 것 같아요.
교전부터 디펜시브까지 박성균 선수가 앞으로 보여줄 경기력이 더욱더 기대될 수밖에 없는 오늘의 24강이었는데요. 박성균 선수의 기록을 보니까 박성균 선수가 시즌 7 이후에 첫 조지 명식이시더라고요. 거의 한 4년 만에.
네네.
굉장히 오랜만에 16강에서 조지 명식을 치르실 예정입니다. 좀 그것 또한 좀 긴장이 되실 것 같아요.
근데 조지병식 진짜 오랜만이네요. 4년이면. 근데 사실 뭐 긴장할 건 없고 오늘 올라가서 일단 뭐 다 잘 될 것 같아요. 왠지 오늘이 제일 좀 힘들 것 같았거든요. 이제 오늘 이겼으니까 뭐 16강은 좀 더 잘할 수 있을 것 같아요.
오랜만에 돌아온 경기장에 대한 적응은 24강으로 충분하다라는 느낌인가요?
네, 뭐 적응할 건 없더라고요. 네.
좋습니다. 박성균 선수가 이번 시즌 또 어떤 선수들을 위협하면서 스토리를 만들어내게 될지 기대되는데요. 오늘 응원해준 연인 그리고 동료들 그리고 또 팬분들까지 감사의 인사 한 말씀 마지막으로 전해주시죠.
일단은 저희 약간 KT 그런 패밀리 중에 제가 이제 세 번째였어요. 성대 올라가고 병영이 올라가고 제가 세 번째였는데 저는 솔직히 좀 힘들 수도 있다 생각했거든요. 그래서 근데 저도 올라가서 너무 기분 좋고 또 서로 연습을 많이 했어요. 뭐 병영이나 뭐 성대나 뭐 병구형 뭐 또 선재 예훈이 뭐 이렇게 여러 윤철이까지 다 많이 도와줬는데 제가 올라가게 돼서 너무 고맙다고 말하고 싶네요. 네.
돌아온 독사 박성균 선수.
그리고
네네네 말씀하시죠.
또 이제 제 여자친구 별비가 응원 왔는데 응원 와줘서 고맙고 덕분에 이긴 것 같습니다.
좋은 기운을 받아서 또 16강에서도 돌아온 독사의 멋진 모습 기대하도록 하겠습니다. 진출 축하드립니다. 네, ASL 시즌 15 24강 C조 경기의 두 번째 16강 진출자 박성균 선수와 함께했습니다.
Well, there you have it, guys. That's Group C. Very cool to see Mind coming back. There's something nice about these players who were on top of the world, and then, like a decade passes, and we get kind of used to remembering them as they were the best, but, not anymore. Mind is one of these guys that's got the opportunity to prove that he can actually, who knows, maybe get to the top 8, maybe top 4. Sky's the limit, man.
Yeah, it's very exciting, and the nostalgia that comes back as you see old champions regain their form is amazing. Now, our split going in the next round, obviously this is a little bit imbalanced right now as we had 2 Terran seeds and 2 Zerg seeds. But yeah, the Terrans doing very well this season. 3 already through compared to 3 total from Zerg and Protoss.
Yeah, we need to get some more Protosses in there. I'm sure we will. We've got Snow in Group D coming up here. I think he's probably the guy that makes it in, but I'll tell you what, man, it's a tough group. It's a very tough group to call. And keep in mind, even if this does come out very lopsided to start, it's not like we can't end up with this evening out later on. We've had many ASLs and even GSLs where it looks like it's going to be pretty one-dimensional as far as races go, and then things kind of smooth out in the end there.
Yeah, the very top players are pretty evenly distributed amongst the races, so I think you are going to see them pull through in that round of 16. But a round of 24, we're halfway through now. Very exciting groups coming up. I am, like you, very excited about Group D. I hope that Jadon can make it through, but honestly, Tastosis, I think that Snow has a decent chance of winning this season.
I think so. Snow is looking better than ever. He's doing things that Reavers we didn't know it was possible to do before. We're going to have that recording out for you guys ASAP. And, I guess by the end of next week, we're going to be done with the round of 24 and already into the round of 16.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's moving pretty quickly, actually, this season. I know it started maybe a few weeks later than it generally does, we're making up for lost time, man. These groups just being played rapid fire.
Yeah, we could end up with a lot of TVTs coming up here in the round of 16. It could be an interesting one. We're looking to flesh out that matchup a little bit more. We already had a great one that we looked at earlier. Before we close the show out, we want to say thank you again for everybody who's supporting us on Patreon. It's patreon.com/ASL English. There should also be a description in the link below on the video itself. But please do support us. Sign up for a year. We couldn't be doing this without you guys. We have a new goal set up. So we hope to continue to get your support and new support from other people who maybe you was watching as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. That's it for us here today. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.